The setting was familiar, the grind. Isabella Vance, her face drawn and tired, sat hunched in a chair, endlessly stirring her coffee. She wanted to shatter the ceramic cup in her hands. Why was she so exhausted? Because Leo Miller, that damn Leo Miller, had promised her 10 days. 10 days. And where was he now? Off doing God knows what. A graceful figure glided through the coffee shop's entrance. It was Dr. Evelyn Shaw, looking as fragile as ever, but her expression was radiant. Isabella remembered their last meeting in this very same place. Back then, Isabella had been on top of the world. As a girlfriend who would be accompanying Leo to his family's New Year's dinner, she was untouchable. With a single 40-minute video, she had shattered Evelyn's psyche, driving the psychologist to a near-successful suicide attempt that very night. But the world turns, and fortunes change. Isabella, Evelyn said, her voice smooth as she sat down opposite her. She shed her overcoat, revealing a figure that was, to put it mildly, formidable. You bought me a coffee. In return, I'll send you a little video. Want to see? She held up her phone, waving it playfully in front of Isabella's face. When Isabella swatted her hand away, Evelyn just smiled. Right? That 40-minute clip you sent me made my eyes sore. I suppose a busy woman like you wouldn't have time to watch several hours of unedited footage, would you? You? Several hours? Isabella looked at Evelyn's frail, sickly appearance, her contempt unconcealed. Being physically weak has its advantages, you know, Evelyn mused. I'm sure you've never experienced the pleasure of being semi-unconscious, able to do nothing but lie there and feel, guided purely by instinct. Making a man pass out is the real skill. Isabella shot back, her fists clenched under the table, though her words were still sharp. Faced with Isabella's stubborn pride, Evelyn said only one thing. Then why don't you go make him pass out right now and see how that works for you? Enough games. Name your price for the amnesia treatment. I'll pay it. Not for sale. Then why did you ask me here? To mock me. Isabella's anger flared, and she tapped a sharp rhythm on the tabletop. My apologies. My phrasing was imprecise, Evelyn said. I will sell it. Just not for money. Then what do you want? Spit it out. I want to be involved in the entire plan. Every step of the way. Watching Isabella lower her head in thought, Evelyn's smile was one of pure satisfaction. I can even give you a preliminary outline, and you can verify for yourself whether my plan is worth the price. Talk. Amnesia is a defense mechanism, the brain protecting itself from pain. In that sense, it's a lot like crying. And since it's about pain, you have to ask yourself, why for Leo are the memories of you so painful? Don't make me guess. I can't figure it out, Isabella said, trying to force her brain to work and failing. If she could have figured it out, she wouldn't be in this mess. Let me give you a few case studies. Case study 1, Peyton. In Leo's memory, Peyton was a venomous snake. But do people who spend that much time together truly feel nothing for each other? Of course not. A man and a woman in long-term proximity will always develop some kind of emotional bond. It just varies in type. Leo's human. He has feelings. He could be drawn to a woman. But he also knew, consciously, that Peyton was dangerous and he had to maintain a rational distance. So that memory was painful. But the moment she took a bullet for him, that rigid perception cracked, and the memories came flooding back. Case study 2, Evelyn continued, is me. In Leo's mind, I was just the kind, older girl from his childhood. A warm memory. But when we met again, I refused to acknowledge him. Do you think when he learned I'd been helping him all along, he wasn't moved? That his feelings weren't stirred? But the man has boundaries. Since I wouldn't acknowledge our past, he wouldn't either. The most familiar stranger, right in front of him, and he couldn't reach out. You think that wasn't painful for him? But when he found out I'd never truly left his side, his memory of me returned in an instant. Isabella listened to the long explanation, a dazed look on her face. It all made a terrifying amount of sense. Wait a minute. You're the older girl from his childhood now. That's a long story. Let's keep this brief today. Evelyn set down her coffee cup and looked at Isabella. So, can you identify your problem from all this? I don't have. Isabella paused, setting her own cup down and closing her eyes for a long moment. I'm all problems. I do so love working with smart people. Maybe some people in this world are just fundamentally incompatible. Isabella sighed, her legs swinging gently under the table. She could easily find some handsome, obedient boy toy or a man from a good family with a weak personality. With her looks and money, was execution ever really an issue? In the low-stakes games, even the high-stakes ones, it never was. But the opponent she was facing was playing with a maxed-out character sheet, just like her. In the past, her economic advantage had allowed her to maintain their relationship. But the moment Leo's own finances leveled up, he instantly became a perfect hexagon, a warrior with no weaknesses. Huh. Isabella sighed again, unsure how to proceed. But then, Evelyn reached across the table and took her hand. Isabella's first instinct was to recoil from the touch, but Evelyn's next words stopped her. Isabella, if love were really just a game of matching up labels on a checklist, no one could ever beat Willow Shung. She and Leo are the ones who are truly compatible. Perfect families, perfect personalities, the golden couple. By all rights, they should be together. But people are complicated, and so is love. Then why can't he and I be together? Isabella shot back, her brow furrowing. After all that, that's the only thing you heard. Evelyn tapped the table. The fact that post-amnesia Leo opened up to you proves that there is a possibility. It just requires a little help from me. What's your angle in all this? On this point, Isabella's instincts were razor-sharp, helping Leo recover his memories. It's my duty, Evelyn said, and it was the honest truth. She just neglected to mention her other, smaller objectives, like having a little fun. Having fun with Peyton was a lost cause. She was always talking about the bigger picture, seeing the grand strategic view. Teasing her was pointless. But teasing Isabella? Now, that was interesting. A playful smile touched Evelyn's lips as she watched the cool, stoic expression on Isabella's face. Peyton and the other women operated from a place of practical reality, always concerned with their position, their status. But Evelyn didn't care about any of that. What does winning or losing matter to the house pet? A pet's job is to find amusement at home. After she was done training Isabella, she'd move on to Skylar Reed. Those two were far more entertaining. Despite the deliciously wicked thoughts swirling in her mind, Evelyn's expression remained as gentle as ever. Isabella, she said softly, you have to believe me. Love is full of infinite possibilities. Isabella studied her sincere face, propping her head on her hand without a word. But then she gave a slow, deliberate nod. PS1. At your service, boss. 2. At the emphatic request of the real-life person who inspired Dr. Shaw. I've updated the essay about her. If you're interested, you can check it out on my TikTok. I wrote down some of her stories and relayed a few of her messages to everyone. The woman has clearly been reading the comments. What do I have to do? The opposite. I really don't know how. An unpleasant image flashed through Isabella's mind, and her expression soured. She was clearly thinking of something she'd rather not. That shy look on your face right now is a good start, Evelyn said with a smile. In short, any impulse you have right now is wrong. Just do the opposite of what your gut tells you, and you'll be on the right track. So you're saying my instincts are worthless? Isabella bristled. Aren't they? Evelyn replied, her face calm. Isabella's anger deflated. Right now, when you think of Leo, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? To demand why he broke his promise. Then you must not demand anything from him. He was in the wrong. Why shouldn't I confront him? Isabella's expression turned icy. It was as if Evelyn had anticipated this exact reaction. No matter. She had an ace up her sleeve. If you don't hurry up, Leo is going to go on a round-the-world trip with Skylar Reed. Impossible. Isabella rejected the idea outright. Leo going on a trip was the most ridiculous thing she'd ever heard. You really think he won't go? Evelyn smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Leo has always operated under the misconception that his little world can't function without him. But if he genuinely, from the bottom of his heart, decides he wants to travel, every single one of us will support him. You and Peyton would support it. Why wouldn't we? Is a close relationship just an excuse to trap someone in the name of love? Besides, Leo has already cleared the board of all his enemies. He isn't needed here, not for a while. Someone needs him. Who? People who are connected to him. There are only a few people connected to him. Evelyn's tone was questioning, but her expression wasn't. It was more like she was leading a witness. Who needs him? Someone, Isabella insisted, her head tilted slightly. Evelyn leaned forward, her eyes trying to find a clue in that pair of crystal-clear blue irises. Who? Be specific. How can I know who you're talking about if you don't tell me? There's definitely someone. A fiancé, maybe. Oh, Leo doesn't care about his fiancé. Then what about Summerlin? He wouldn't just ignore her, would he? She's an ex-girlfriend. They've gone their separate ways. Why would he care? Evelyn placed her hands on the table. Isabella, you know your position is getting weaker by the day. The moment Leo leaves Riverbend, you will never have another chance with him for the rest of your life. I can't travel abroad. Your entire business is here. How long could you be gone? A few days. Seeing Isabella still fighting, Evelyn sighed. Look, if you're fine with saying goodbye to Leo for good, then just forget we ever had this conversation. I have never lost, and I won't lose now. I know you're a woman of immense power, Isabella. So why are you being so timid about this one thing? Timid. Isabella looked at the woman in disbelief. She never thought she'd hear that word applied to her. Then why are you afraid to admit you need him? Evelyn kept prodding, trying to break through that ironclad pride. But a beautiful, sharp curve formed on Isabella's lips. Don't use such clumsy tactics on me. I know what you're trying to do. She lifted her head, her gaze sharp and aggressive. I know you're here to watch me make a fool of myself. But if it means he can get his memory back, I'm willing to cooperate. The only thing that matters is restoring his memory, and I will do whatever it takes, even if you mix in your own little games. But be clear about one thing. If it doesn't work out between us, I'll accept it. But if Leo and I do end up together, I will not allow any of you to be in his life. You'd better be prepared for that. I've been prepared for that for a long time, Evelyn said, leaning back in her chair as she began to explain her plan to the blue-eyed woman. Isabella just kept nodding. The coffee shop was busy, even with the holidays approaching, and many eyes were drawn to the two beautiful women. Beauty has its own filter. Onlookers speculated about their conversation. What do women talk about when they get together? Jewelry, luxury goods, men, children. They were in fact talking about a man. The same man. Isabella slowly lifted her head, her gaze drifting toward the overcast sky. The two women sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Evelyn spoke. Well then, Isabella, the plan begins with you giving yourself a vacation. A crash course in becoming the perfect homemaker. Will that really work? The core of it is to shatter his old, rigid impression of you. As long as you do the opposite of what you've always done, it will be fine. Is that what you did? The opposite of yourself? No, neither did Peyton. Because we didn't need to, Evelyn explained, shaking her head. You're different from us. Even if his memory returns and all the misunderstandings are cleared up, you and Leo still might not be able to be together. This was the very premise that allowed Evelyn to play so recklessly. So what if his memory comes back? For the others, restored memories meant a massive boost to their relationship score. For Isabella, restored memories would be a victory if they didn't drop her score into the negative. Whether love is a projection of one's own deficiencies or an anchor for the soul, whether it is about taking or giving, it can never be a one-way street. Isabella's understanding of love was still confined to the realm of logic. But Leo was a creature of emotion. Evelyn wasn't an expert, so she couldn't say if two people were astrologically incompatible. But judging by their life experiences, there was no way the two of them could ever truly fit. Isabella, Evelyn said, perhaps you could try being a little more emotional. Cry more often. You might as well just kill me now. Isabella turned away, speechless. She thought Evelyn was mocking her overactive tear ducts. Sometimes, she wanted to have them surgically removed. On the surface, Evelyn sighed dramatically. Inside, she was bursting with laughter. Look at this woman. And she thinks she can win? Whip my ass. Based on her psychological analysis, Evelyn could state with certainty that those two would never end up together. It wasn't because they were both competitive. Leo was fiercely competitive, but he knew how to yield, provided you could get him to feel something first. And making Leo feel something was ridiculously easy, because he had been an emotional person from childhood. His mother's tolerance and guilt had taught him to be independent and strong, and that very independence was his way of repaying her. Leo's emotional logic was simple. Love and acceptance would touch his heart, and he would respond in kind to show his gratitude. Dating Leo was just that simple. But Isabella's upbringing had all but extinguished any emotional spark within her. Emotion is generated through human connection. When you aren't even close to your own parents, how can you possibly be emotional? That's why people must bravely build intimate relationships. When you're alone, all your problems stay hidden. But in an intimate relationship, it's like looking in a mirror. It reflects all your flaws. It makes you realize that people are full of holes, and that even with all those holes, someone can still love you. At that moment, how can you not feel something? Thinking this, Evelyn studied the blue-eyed goddess with great interest. Can two people who are completely wrong for each other really go the distance? P.S. Love, a lioness. By the way, what was that important thing you mentioned yesterday? Evelyn called out as Isabella prepared to leave. A guy named Julian Miller found me. He's Leo's cousin. Is he pursuing you? It seems more like he's pursuing Leo. Evelyn's brain short-circuited. What? Why would you say that? She asked, a note of urgency in her voice. He said he has a way to make the Shung family call off the engagement on their own initiative. And what does that have to do with pursuing Leo? Because I don't know what his motive is. If he were pursuing me, then making the Shung family break the engagement would be the equivalent of setting me up with Leo, right? But if he's not pursuing me, I can't figure out his angle. The only other explanation is that he's trying to clear away Leo's fiancée so he can make a move himself. The logic left Evelyn completely baffled. What kind of thought process was that? There has to be another motive. How could you possibly jump to a cousin falling in love with his cousin? If you're talking about the Miller family, it's not that far-fetched. We've already seen what Ethan is like, haven't we? Evelyn shook her head, refusing to let the bizarre idea take root. This was reaching a level of weird that even she, a connoisseur of weird, found disturbing. Did you agree to his plan? Of course not. Isabella didn't even bother to explain why. While she would be thrilled to see the Shungs break the engagement, who would agree to work with someone whose motives were a complete mystery? Did they really think she was that desperate? Isabella, recovering his memory might take a long time. Is your company busy? Evelyn gestured to Isabella's phone on the table. In the short time they'd been sitting there, she'd seen the screen light up with calls at least 10 times, none of which Isabella had answered. It's fine. I gave myself a vacation. Business should come first, Isabella. No one knows that better than I do. Isabella didn't elaborate. Instead, she leaned closer and took off the large sunglasses she was wearing, revealing dark circles that even her eyeshadow couldn't completely hide. But I still haven't learned how to sleep alone. It's hard to go from luxury back to basics. I understand. That's why I agreed to cooperate with you, Isabella said, looking at her dark circles with a serious expression. Even though I know your motives aren't entirely pure. Even so, Evelyn said, her tone grave, I don't think recovering his memory is going to cure your insomnia. That's not your concern. You seem a little confident. Evelyn sensed a subtle shift. Was that confidence? Where did she get off being confident? Are you also a childhood sweetheart? I'm not. Fine. I agree to your terms. Just follow my plan tonight at 9 o'clock. All right. As she watched Isabella's figure disappear into the distance, Evelyn's expression slowly morphed into one of playful amusement. It was so much more fun to play with smart people. What was the point of toying with fools? She was restructuring her own way of life. Two things were essential in a person's life: a lover and an enemy. For someone starved of love, finding a warm partner wasn't the end of the story, the beginning of a happy life. Because the love-starved would endlessly drain the nutrients they lacked, making that survival mode a habit. And no one, short of Saint, could withstand that kind of constant drain. So Evelyn chose another path. She created imaginary enemies. Because an enemy was the simplest way to enrich one's life. Finding a hobby required luck and exploration. An enemy did not. An enemy forced you to focus all your attention on them. After making a brief appearance at the Cypress Lounge, Leo headed straight for the Miller estate. He hadn't been back since the dust had settled. He hadn't even shown up for the patriarch's memorial service a week after his death. He felt no guilt. To be honest, he felt no real connection to the Millers. He never even thought of the old man as a grandfather. But since he was here, burning a little incense wasn't a big deal. The clouds were being consumed by fire. The blazing light etched the silhouette of the distant mountains. Old man, what was the point of building this whole empire? Leo crouched down, looking at the low headstone. The orange light illuminated the landscape. The setting sun, the mountaintop, the grave. A straight line. You still end up as a pile of dirt in the end. He stood up. Still, being rich has its perks. At least you get a plot with good feng shui. He gave the grave a slight bow and turned to leave. As he did, he saw someone walking out of the lakeside cabin. It startled him. Jesus, Grandpa, did you reincarnate already? I'm your cousin, Julian. Oh, for a second there, I was about to capture you for scientific research. Julian had just extended a hand when he saw Leo turn and walk away, completely uninterested. His hand hung in midair. But Julian seemed to be a good-natured guy, well-mannered. He didn't take offense. Instead, he scratched his head and walked over. Leo, I didn't come back this time to fight for the inheritance. But you definitely didn't come back just to shake your cousin's hand, either. Leo took the cigarette Julian offered, lit it, but didn't smoke. He walked over and stuck it in the dirt in front of the headstone. I came back to ask for mercy from my father. Can't do it. I hold a grudge. Julian had heard his cousin was a bit of a punk, but he hadn't expected this level of shamelessness. Leo, I think you might be a little hostile toward me. It's hard not to be, Leo said, stuffing his hands in his pockets and stepping closer to his cousin. There was an unreadable expression in his eyes. Who told you to go find Isabella Vance? She told you about that? Cousin, the Cypress Lounge is the biggest information hub in Riverbend. I know about every affair in this city that ends with some guy jumping out a window. You think I wouldn't hear about the great young master of the Miller family returning from Boston? I just heard that you publicly acknowledged your relationship with Ms. Vance at the family dinner. so I thought I'd try a more indirect approach. Julian didn't hide much, choosing to lay his cards on the table, a move that had its own strategic purpose. Cousin, there's no bottom line in this world that can't be moved. It's just a matter of whether the price is right. Let's hear it. Julian's expression was now extraordinarily confident. So confident it actually made Leo curious. What price could make him look like that? Especially the way Julian was now, glancing around as if he was about to reveal some world-shattering secret. Well, spit it out. Listen to me, cousin, Julian whispered conspiratorially. I have a beautiful mistress. What the actual hell? Leo looked up at his square-jawed cousin in disbelief. Seriously? You look like a perfectly normal dude, and you're trying to use a honey trap on me? Seeing his cousin's expression, Julian quickly explained, when giving a gift, you have to cater to the recipient's tastes. And who told you my taste was women? Julian heard this and gave him a look that said, come on, we're brothers, who are you kidding? When I say tastes, cousin, I mean your particular fetish. What fetish? Don't you have a thing for your cousin's wives? Get the hell out of here. Leo couldn't stand having his reputation slandered like this. Where did this rumor about him liking his cousin's wives even come from? I've been asking around the family these past few days. A lot of people know Peyton is with you. We had feelings for each other before she became my cousin's wife-to-be. Can we please get the timeline straight? I get it. Before she was your cousin's fiancé, you just had feelings but weren't committed. The moment she became your cousin's fiancé, you were suddenly all in. Are you even listening to me? Leo turned away, annoyed. He couldn't believe it. It had only been a few days, and now he had a reputation as a sister-in-law connoisseur. Listen, Julian, I don't have a thing for cousins' wives. Your bargaining chip holds no appeal for me. Is it that you don't like your cousin's wife, or you don't like just one cousin's wife? What's the difference? Of course there's a difference. Julian put his hands behind his back, his expression theatrically grand. I, your cousin, can create a sister-in-law production line for you. I'll just keep getting married, and then I'll pass them all on to you. Stop. Leo stared at his cousin's face, then glanced around at the massive Miller family estate. Damn, was there something in the Miller family genes? No, that wasn't right. Ethan and Julian weren't technically blood-related to him. Leo felt that by any normal person's standards, he was already pretty messed up. But compared to his two cousins, he was practically a saint. A goddamn production line. Cousin, who started this rumor about me liking my cousin's wives. Don't hesitate. Just say it. It was Uncle Rick. What? Leo froze, stunned. The image of his father's sly, calculating face flashed through his mind. He looked up just in time to see Rick Miller himself walking out of the cabin. Dad, why are you ruining my reputation? You have no self-control, Rick said, walking out with his hands behind his back. He gave both Leo and Julian a light smack on the head. You're too high and mighty, Leo. My t-shirt cost $50 for two at night market. How am I high and mighty? Put yourself in the family's shoes for a minute. The rightful heir to the family fortune doesn't want the family and spends his days scheming about who knows what. If you were a family member, wouldn't you think he was detached and unrelatable? So giving me the title of the sister-in-law, Terminator, makes me seem less high and mighty. It's a self-defamation tactic, you idiot, Rick said, rolling his eyes as he paced back and forth. At least this way, the family members won't live in constant fear. They'll just tell their wives to lock the door when they go out and call the police if Leo Miller comes knocking. No, that's definitely not the only reason. There's also a personal reason of my own. At this, Rick coughed twice and looked away, a little unnaturally. Otherwise, there's no way to explain the Peyton situation. Why not just tell the truth? A big part of the reason Leo had come here was for Peyton. He remembered her mentioning a child on the phone. A woman might not care about her own title, but no woman is indifferent to her child's. He had come to the estate to sort things out, to talk to everyone, and just explain the situation plainly. He hadn't expected the road to be completely blocked. Leo, you have to be considerate of the family. A man my age has to save face. Rick walked over and clapped Leo on the shoulder. Under no circumstances can Peyton marry you. We've already pushed things to the absolute limit. I'm not saying she has to marry me. I'm just worried about if a child is born. We'll acknowledge the child. It's a Miller child. How could we not? Rick said earnestly. The best way to stop a rumor from spreading is to give it a definitive, eye-catching conclusion. Only by ending the speculation will people stop spreading it. They'll stop inventing new theories. After a while, the whole thing will blow over. The benefit of this approach is that your child with Peyton won't be affected by the rumors. The downside is, I know the downside. Leo turned and saw several of the Miller family's young women and wives in the distance. Before, they would have greeted him warmly. Now, They were clearly hiding behind their husbands. And the men looked at him like he was a villain from a movie, terrified he was about to steal their women. Leo spent the day wandering around the Miller estate, sitting in on a few meetings as a silent observer. Every time he tried to slip away, his father would stop him with a firm, "You're already here." Even though Leo held no official position in the company, there was no issue with him attending meetings. At the end of the day, he was still young. He hadn't even graduated from college yet. What was the rush? This was the age to be a rebellious rich kid. The old guard hadn't fallen yet. He took the opportunity to secretly observe Julian. Julian was a man in his 30s and should have been in his prime, but he didn't seem mature at all. "Cousin, are you sure you don't want to consider the sister-in-law? Are you ever going to shut up about that? Brothers are like limbs, women are like clothes. Your cousin is very open-minded." "Well, I'm not." Leo sat at the table, chatting, and turned to find himself face-to-face with Winston Shung's bald head. The old man had been sitting nearby, eavesdropping on the cousin's conversation. He now looked at his prospective son-in-law with an expression of profound relief. "Look at this son-in-law of mine, so upstanding, able to resist temptation." But in the distance, Winston's older brother, Vincent, looked on with an unnatural expression. Something about the way Julian was acting felt off, especially when his eyes met Julian's across the room. There was an unspoken tension in the air. The Cypress Lounge. The orange sign glowed in the night, a warm sanctuary rising from the frozen wasteland of the city. A long unseen guest walked slowly down the long alley. Her swaying camel-colored trench coat brushed against the demon mural at the entrance, picking up an imperceptible speck of dust on the belt. The coat, paired with simple heels, was the standard uniform for an elegant, powerful woman, a solid 60 out of 100. The dramatic hip-to-waist ratio and natural proportions were bonus points, easily pushing her to an 80. Her distinctive facial features were the ticket to 90. As for the final 10 points, from 90 to 100, that depended on something more fundamental. "I'd like to make an appointment with Leo." "I'm sorry, Leo is no longer working as a host." $30,000. "I apologize, but perhaps you'd like to book one of our other hosts." $50,000. "I'm sorry, he's no longer taking clients." $100,000. Isabella Vance's eyes held a command that could not be questioned. $100,000 for you to make one phone call to him. "Ms. Vance, you really don't have to spend $100,000 on this. You could just call Leo directly," said Jenny, the receptionist. She had been a spectator to this entire saga of love and hate. She'd seen them all, Summerlin, Isabella Vance, the whole parade. To be honest, she was a little envious. Was this the power of a master host? "I want you to use the lounge's official channels to call him," Isabella commanded, "and ask him if he is willing to see me." "All right." Jenny, completely intimidated by Isabella's presence, couldn't even make eye contact. She mumbled, "So I'll just state it exactly as you said? Ask Leo if he's willing to see a client for $100,000. No, the price is whatever he wants to name. The $100,000 is just for the phone call." This was what made an elegant woman a 100. Isabella stood without leaning on anything, her gaze sweeping over the other patrons with an air of absolute authority. Upstairs at the lounge, Leo and Silas sat across from each other on low stools, neither saying a word. After a long silence, Silas finally slammed his hand on the table. "This idea of a world trip. Are you getting lazy, kid? I've been working since I was a teenager. I think I'm allowed to enjoy myself a little, right? Enjoy yourself? You're only 20. You think money is just going to fall into your lap? So you don't approve of me taking a trip. I approve, but you can't let yourself get too complacent. I think you're just jealous of my power fantasy life. I'll be jealous of you." Silas ground his teeth, looking at Leo in disbelief. "Me, your Uncle Silas. I've been all over this country, seen it all. You think I'd be jealous of you? Has anyone ever invited you on a trip around the world?" "Oh, I get it now. I heard Aunt Vivian was a tour guide who traveled all over. Don't tell me she invited you back in the day, and you turned her down?" Leo felt like he was onto something, his eyes darting around mischievously. "So that's why you're so sympathetic to Skylar's cause. There's a story there. Don't talk nonsense. Is a trip around the world something you just agreed to lightly? You didn't have money when you were young. If I had money, would I have become a host?" Silas's career as a host was very different from Leo's. Male model, escort, host. The titles were more or less the same, but the levels were worlds apart. Silas had started at the very bottom, serving clients who were far from high class. He had seen it all, but Leo had been lucky, starting his career serving the elite. Even then, he had stumbled and fumbled his way through the beginning. Without Silas's help, he would have been nothing. This was the real reason the lounge didn't hire from outside. They had tried it before. Plenty of desperate, broke guys wanted to try their luck in the industry, all saying the same thing. I'll do anything as long as I can make money. But that very sentence disqualified them. If you've managed to screw up your life to the point of complete desperation, it means your judgment is fundamentally flawed. Leo had only learned this later. At the time, he had been just as desperate, on the verge of hanging himself from a tree. He asked Silas why he'd hired him anyway. Silas hadn't answered him then. Now Leo decided to ask again. Silas, why did you hire me back then? Because you were desperate, kid. But I thought we didn't hire guys like that. We don't hire stupid guys. Silas didn't usually have that middle-aged urge to lecture people. He'd rather spend his time watching a few live streamers. But this time, he was ready to teach Leo something. There's no objective standard for smart or stupid. I'm a businessman. I don't have time to psychoanalyze my employees. I just look at the context. To have run your life into the ground by the time you're a teenager, that takes courage because very few people your age manage to get that far. But if you're still doing that at 30, that's just stupid, because very few people your age manage to get that far either. Leo wasn't 30 yet, so it was hard for him to relate. To be honest, he was a little envious of those protagonists in reincarnation novels. An 18-year-old body with a 40-year-old soul. What a cheat code that was. Silas, is my dad stupid? Stupid as a pig. P.S. Meow. More later. Oh, so you're jealous of me. Jealous of what? Your few $100,000 in savings. Silas couldn't even look at him. In truth, he was a little jealous. The reason he and Vivian had broken up really was because of a trip. She had sincerely invited him. But a poor kid is always scared of being poor again. Who would dare give up a chance to make money? How many opportunities does a person get in life to climb up? So even though he already had a decent amount of money back then, he wasn't willing to let go of the chance to climb even higher. He didn't regret it. When you've achieved success, you don't have regrets. He just had a little sadness about it. Normally, that sadness would have faded with time. Is a life without regrets even a life at all? But this kid, Leo, seemed determined to live a life with no regrets whatsoever. We were both poor kids who chose survival over a beautiful invitation in our youth. I get you, kid, because I've been there. But then you turn around and become a rich kid, and you get to say yes to a trip around the world without a second thought. And yeah, I'm a little jealous, because I never got to experience that. I'm begging you, just take one shift. Experience what it's like to work again. Don't have it so good. It's painful for me to watch. I don't have any shifts to take, Leo said. He wasn't on the active roster. Just then his phone rang. Hey, Leo, got a client for you. Why are you suddenly putting me on the schedule? Leo was confused. It's Ms. Vance. She's offering $100,000 for your time tonight. Wait, no, $100,000 for this phone call. $100,000 for a phone call. Leo sucked in a sharp breath. Are you talking about the Ms. Vance with the blue eyes? Yes, that's the one. I'm coming down now. This wasn't something they could sort out over the phone. Leo had to go downstairs and find out what the hell was going on. Got a job? Silas asked, a wide grin spreading across his face as he sat in his bamboo chair. This was great. The kid needed to do some work. By the way, you might see a couple of familiar faces. Sebastian Cole and Julian Miller are starting work at the lounge. Seb and Julian? Leo turned, bewildered. Those two are obviously up to no good. Letting them in is just asking for trouble. Silas rocked gently in his chair. I'm a businessman. I only care about money. If a couple of rich kids are willing to bring their own funding to the project, why wouldn't I be happy? As for trouble, I'm planning on handing the lounge over to you anyway. Any trouble they cause will be your problem. All right, you win. And to motivate you to work hard, I'm giving you a temporary assignment. Silas continued to rock, his eyes half closed. I don't care where you go on your trip, but it means I have to work for a few more years. And the easiest way to get me to work is to see some money coming in. You old bastard, you're changing the deal again? I thought we agreed I'd help you get Aunt Vivian back. That's too easy for you. It doesn't feel fair to me. I'm broke. I've got nothing but my life to give, Leo said, plopping down on the floor in a shameless display. Silas cracked an eyelid and glanced at the brat on the floor. I'm not asking you to pay out of your own pocket. I'm asking you to stir up some competition. Haven't you noticed that since you left, the other hosts have no one to chase? On the night of the Starlight Gala, you have to be number one in sales. Light a fire under these young bulls. Can I just have my dad pay for it? No, I want you to drive competition, not parachute in as a trust fund baby. The gala is in 4 days. I don't have a single client. Leo shot Silas an annoyed look. This was clearly just creating problems for him. But Silas acted as if he hadn't seen his expression at all. You're a master host. For you, it's a piece of cake. Come on, you think this is Monopoly money? Sales require real cash. Not my problem. Silas got up from his chair, poured Leo a cup of tea, and placed it in front of him. So, here are your options. Either give up the lounge and go on your trip, get first place in sales and go on your trip, or stay here in Riverbend like a good little boy. Fine. If I can't do it, I won't go. Leo took a few deep breaths, waved his hand, and turned to go downstairs. Initially, he had treated the trip as a small thing. It was easy for him. He could make the choice without any pressure. But now it was a challenge. Was he going to back down? To be honest, before Silas had said anything, he wasn't even sure he wanted to go. But now that there was a bet, his competitive spirit, the need to win just for the sake of winning, was instantly ignited. From the second-floor window, Silas watched Leo's back as he walked away, down the pebble path. He watched him move through the crowd as he always did, laughing and making a bet with the bartender about how much a customer at the door would tip. Leo was fiercely competitive. That kind of person thrives on victory and the fruits of that victory. If you just bought him a fancy dinner, he'd be bored. But if you challenged him to a game of basketball or a video game where the loser pays for the meal, he would eat until he burst. A simple invitation to travel was useless. Skylar is still young, Silas thought. Don't worry, kid, I'll help you out. And Leo, I'm helping you too. Silas's memory rewound, flashing back to a night long ago. In the hallway behind the second-floor entrance, Silas poured a cup of tea for the young man across from him. The young man waved it away and pulled an icy can of Coke from his pocket. He took a long drink, wincing at the cold. Silas, he said, tomorrow, whether I live or die, don't let anyone take me. You don't have to risk it, you know. Your grandfather. When you accept someone's charity, you have to live by their rules, right? Haven't you had enough of the hard life? Don't you want to live a little more smoothly? Silas sat at the tea table, watching the young man out of the corner of his eye. The whole point of suffering is to pursue the life you want. Otherwise, what's the point of suffering? And what's the life you want? I want to be free. No obligations. And then go see the world. See that world that's always been like a fairy tale to me. The life I know is fake smiles, drinking, vomiting, the gray dust on the cobblestones, and a shared bike someone else rides away. But someone told me, we live on a planet with snow-capped mountains, coral reefs, northern lights, moss-covered stones, and shimmering waterfalls. A kid like me, I deserve to see that too, right? The young man drained a can of Coke, licking the last drops from the rim. Silas, he said, I'm pretty messed up in the head. I don't know if you old guys get that. But someone told me that pain comes from not being selfish enough when you should be. So this car crash. This is my final offering. The young man curled up in the corner, his head down. The light from the entryway cast sharp angles on his face. He lifted an arm, pushed his hair back, and looked up with a bitter smile, his eyes shining. Silas, he said, if I make it out of this alive, I want to live for myself just once. P.S. For the kid who wanted to see the world. The Serenity Room. Leo looked at Isabella Vance sitting across from him, his expression deeply weirded out. So, I hear you spent $100,000 on a phone call. It was a mutually agreed-upon transaction. Nothing wrong with that. You've lost your damn mind. Leo placed a drink on the small table, annoyed. $100,000 was bullshit. She could have offered $100 million. It wouldn't have mattered, because she knew he would never see a dime of that money. You think I'm bluffing? Isabella's face was calm, as if she wasn't the least bit surprised by his reaction. She simply held up her phone for him to see. In stark contrast, Leo's jaw dropped. No way. You actually pay. It's just business. Are you crazy? That money will never get to me. Leo was practically vibrating with agitation, ready to go hunt down Silas and give him a piece of his mind. No need. You're not on the active roster. Bending the rules comes with a price. Isabella, today I am your client. What should you be calling me? Ms. Vance. One moment, I'll re-enter. Leo instantly understood the source of today's strangeness. His expression switched to a professional smile. He picked up the drink, walked out of the private room, then turned around and came back in. Hello, Ms. Vance. It's a pleasure to be of service to you. I don't like that title. Then what would you prefer? Something more intimate. Anything. Darling, baby, sweetheart, wifey. Call me wifey. All right, wifey. Leo nodded with a seamless smile, the word rolling off his tongue without a hint of hesitation. His mouth, in fact, didn't stop moving at all. Wifey has excellent taste. In what way? Wearing large sunglasses in the middle of the night. What else could it be but excellent taste? Isabella chuckled and pointed to the glasses on her face. Do you want to see what's hidden behind them? If I may, I'll take them off for you. Go ahead. Leo stepped forward and gently removed the sunglasses. The dark circles are a bit heavy. Wifey hasn't been sleeping well lately, because my man won't come home. Good men are creatures of fairy tales. Why waste your energy on them? I just want a good night's sleep. Of course. The lounge provides guest rooms, and I can accompany you until you've fallen fast asleep. I want to sleep well in my own home with my own man. Leo paused for a fraction of a second, then a wide grin spread across his face. He spoke softly to her. Wifey, you must be dreaming. You don't have a man. You could be my man. It would be my honor. But allow me to offer a friendly piece of advice. You can find anything you want at the lounge, major connections, resources, or smaller things like service, emotional support, and companionship. But you shouldn't come here looking for love. Why not? Do you really think a place like this produces hopeless romantics? Leo spread his hands, leaning against the tatami mat. The lounge is a place for you to find happiness. But love is not happiness. Love isn't happiness. Not entirely. Love has two faces. One is happiness, the other is unhappiness. To sell love as a commodity would be far too risky. Who knows if you're selling joy or sorrow? The lounge is in the business of making money. We don't offer such high-risk products. Then I won't buy love. I just want to experience what it tastes like. My apologies, but I can't describe what love tastes like either. Refund. The word echoed in his ears like a demonic chant. How long had it been since he'd heard that word? No need for that. While I may not know the specific flavor of love, I can help you experience the feeling of a fluttering heart. Let me feel it. How about we simulate a date? Okay, but it's just a simulation. Once you walk out that door, understand. Once I walk out that door, we don't know each other. I wouldn't go that far. I just won't be providing my services anymore. I'm just here to pay for your services. In the medieval-themed bar behind the lounge, a long-legged woman sat under the dim, yellow lights, her narrow eyes like blue amber. Leo jogged over and sat down beside her. So, Ms. Vance, what do you think a first date should be like? Polite conversation, asking about each other. Wrong. Leo shook his head. A first date is a chance to define the initial boundaries. Being polite is just making it harder on yourself. If an intimate relationship progresses from unfamiliar to polite to familiar to intimate, then being polite is setting the boundary too far out. Too many people focus on manners and asking questions about the other person. It creates distance, and eventually everyone gets tired. So what's the right way? Sincere compliments. Praise her uniqueness. Then bring the conversation back to what you're about to do. Won't that lead to awkward silences? Embrace the silence. The atmosphere is never created by one person. It's created by manufacturing surprises. That's what movie theaters are for. Or if you don't want to see a movie, you can pay off the cab driver and have him tell you what a cute couple you make. Isabella looked up and saw Sebastian Cole standing nearby, dressed like a waiter. She turned back to Leo. So, you're planning to make my heart flutter with these kinds of tricks? Leo shook his head and leaned in, whispering conspiratorially in her ear. That method works for other people. I have my own special technique. And what's so special about it? It's a bit dependent on good looks. Isabella shook her head, a mixture of amusement and annoyance on her face, as if their relationship could be moved by such simple gestures. You take a girl to a dimly lit bar, Leo explained. Then you turn and look directly into her eyes. If you see her pupils dilate and she holds your gaze for 3 seconds without looking away, that's the signal to charge. If her pupils constrict or she blinks rapidly, that's when you retreat and ask her, what color is your eyeshadow? Under the dim lights, a jazz-rap song played softly in the background. Leo leaned on the bar, turned, and stared into her eyes, his own filled with profound emotion. Even though Isabella knew the script, even though she tried to control her reaction, the moment their eyes met, she found she couldn't. Physical attraction is hard to suppress. She knew in that instant her pupils had widened. So she closed her eyes, tilted her head up, and puckered her lips slightly, waiting for the charge. What color is your eyeshadow? What? Isabella's eyes snapped open. Seriously? My lips are puckered, and you're asking me that? She was furious. An instant layer of frost covered her beautiful face. She turned her head away, refusing to look at him. Behind her, Leo watched her back with a triumphant smile. He shot a look at a similarly bewildered Seb, as if to say, see? Pay attention. Leo, I honestly don't get it, Seb whispered. Let me ask you, when I was explaining the dating details just now, did she show any emotion? No. And now? Well, she's showing emotion now, but she's also a little angry. Leo grinned. The push and pull of emotion, he said. That's where the heartbeat begins. The push and pull of emotion. It wasn't just about pulling, you had to push too. This was the point where you were supposed to comfort them. A classic formulaic approach. But what Leo couldn't believe was that Isabella didn't need comforting. Instead, she stood up on her own. I'll be back tomorrow. The service today was excellent. That's it? We're done. Yes. Isabella said nothing more, simply turned and left, leaving two pairs of astonished eyes in her wake. Seb frowned. What do we make of that, Leo? I have no idea. Come on, I thought we were brothers. Don't hold out on me. I'm serious, I really don't know. Leo was stunned by her strategy. What on earth was she playing at? Isabella, stop messing around. I'll give you your money back, Leo said, following her out of the lounge, chattering nonstop. I said I'd take care of you for a few days. I just got held up. We can start the count from today, okay? No need. Come into the lounge for a little while each day is fine. Who put you up to this? Leo stood with his hands on his hips. He could guess someone was feeding her ideas with his eyes closed. We can never be in a relationship again, can we? Do you want to be in a relationship with a man who comes with this much baggage? Leo leaned against the doorframe, scratching his head. There was only one possible answer to that question. Isabella's concept of a relationship was completely different from Peyton's or Evelyn's. Because of their unique life experiences, the latter two weren't seeking a conventional romance. But Isabella was different. Her pride, her coldness. These were all common personality traits, no different from insecurity, arrogance, or introversion. She was just looking for a relationship that was truly her own. And so, Leo could only wave goodbye. He couldn't give her that. And you should never promise something you can't deliver. It only hurts everyone involved. That was a lesson Leo had learned from his own pre-amnesia story. People have to grow up. Isabella didn't argue with his answer. She offered her own explanation. I'm willing to agree with you. The most suitable relationship for us is one based on money. You don't have to spend this much. Isabella just shook her head and walked toward her car. She sat inside, silent, gazing through the window at Leo standing in the alley. A privacy screen separated them. He couldn't see her, but she could see him. Her eyes were fixed on him, as if she had been turned to stone by Medusa's gaze. She had never lost at anything in her life. But this time, it seemed she was about to. Evelyn had been confused, asking her point blank, "Your memories are a train wreck. Restoring them won't do you any good. He accepted you after he lost his memory. Why are you so insistent on getting them back?" The answer was hidden in her thoughts right now. Because she was no longer chasing a relationship. She just wanted her memory back, so she wouldn't have any regrets. There were no deeply profound, unforgettable stories between her and Leo that needed to be cherished for a lifetime. From the moment they met, their relationship was destined for conflict. So she just wanted the memory back. Otherwise, even if she left the stage, wouldn't there still be a lingering regret? She and Leo had already been through the cycle of love so many times. Starting over, again and again. She admitted it. She had made a complete mess of this thing, whatever it was, that may or may not have been a relationship. So she might as well let it all go back to the beginning. She was just his client. When she was bored or had free time, she would come by, chat, and see him. Isabella asked herself honestly, was she really the kind of person who was willing to settle down and build a family? Since she might never get married, a life of visiting the lounge after a long day at work wasn't so bad. After composing herself, Isabella rolled down the window and looked at Leo, who was slowly walking toward her. She smiled. "Leo, want to have dinner with me? For that much money, if you asked me to eat shit, I'd take a bite. Get in." Inside Isabella's villa, Leo sat at the dining table with a pained expression. He stared at the feast before him, rendered speechless by a deep, physiological agony. He honestly couldn't comprehend how any single person could consistently produce a table full of such toxic-looking food. "Where's the housekeeper? She went home for the day. Her cooking skills are a little. Maybe you should find someone who's a better cook. I made this before I went to the lounge. It's just a little cold now. Delicious. I love it." Leo shoveled the food into his mouth, his face a mask of ease as he commented on the flavors. "Who said this food was toxic? This food is fantastic. There are only two of us in this room. No one said the food was toxic. Oh, right. Ha ha ha." The villa had always been cold and empty. But when Isabella and Leo were in the same room, it would take on the warmth of a home. Because Leo was a talker. But this time was different. This time, Isabella was the one talking. "How is your mother's health?" "She's doing well." "So, are you going on that trip with Skylar Reed?" "I haven't decided yet." As Isabella asked the question, Leo stared into her eyes, trying to decipher what was going on behind those amber-like irises. "Well, if you do leave, let me know." "Why?" "So I don't show up at the lounge and find you're not there." "Okay." Leo's playful expression vanished, replaced by a serious one as he studied her face. "Have you really moved on? The facts are right here in front of me. I don't want to admit defeat, but are you going to give up Peyton and Evelyn?" "No. So no matter what, I've already lost." "Then come to the lounge for free from now on. Don't pay any more. I'm not short on cash." Isabella walked upstairs on her own. She didn't say whether Leo should stay the night or not. She just went into the shower, then got into bed and pulled the covers over herself, silent. Does anyone really not know how to sleep alone? Of course not. It was all about habit. She was used to Leo putting her to sleep, and she had always naively believed he would come back. Because from the day she brought him to her villa, she had treated him as her private property and worked to mold him into just that. Even their breakup in the media company's conference room hadn't felt particularly real to her. She had always seen him as hers, and couldn't believe their bond could be severed. She was like a fool in their first love, naively believing that love is eternal, no matter what anyone else thinks. She never felt the bond between them was broken, until Evelyn mentioned the plan to restore his memory. Evelyn had told her to change. At first, Isabella thought the core of that change was to become more domestic, more wifely. But Evelyn shook her head and said, the core of the change is to abandon your unreasonable need for possession. In that moment, Isabella suddenly understood. But if she couldn't possess him, did she still want to be in a relationship with him? The answer was no. She had no intention of sharing her man with anyone else. In the dark, silent room, Isabella lay flat on the bed, listening to Leo's muffled instructions from outside the bedroom door. I'm leaving now. Call ahead next time you come to the lounge, so you don't waste a trip. Okay. Is there anything else you want to say to me? No. I'll wash the dishes downstairs. Bye. Okay. Leo turned and left the villa. He paused to scratch the dog's head and top up his food bowl. Standing at the door, he looked back up toward the second floor. Maybe they had some bad history before his amnesia. But at the end of the day, Isabella was the only one he had accepted after losing his memory. It was impossible that there were no feelings there. But he couldn't give her what she wanted. That was the price he had to pay for this enviable life as a lover, a pet. He could only wish her the best, hope that she had truly moved on. Their relationship had always been ambiguous. A breakup that didn't feel like a breakup. But from this moment on, the bond that even amnesia couldn't sever was officially disconnected. Isabella heard the heavy thud of the front door closing. She got out of bed and stood by the window, watching the blurry figure walk away into the distance. She fought against her own treacherous tear ducts. Good. No tears fell. But then, the true, hollow emptiness of a breakup washed over her like a tidal wave. She had no experience with this, so she searched on social media. What are people like when they're heartbroken? But she couldn't see the screen. Her useless tear ducts had finally betrayed her. The complete memory of their past played on a loop in her mind. Human companionship is always temporary. So how can love be permanent? Love is just an endless cycle. They had started over countless times and failed countless times. Even a golden opportunity like amnesia had been squandered by her. She didn't blame Leo. She could only blame herself. She had been so close, hadn't she? I must be the stupidest person in the world. She didn't see the comment section on the heartbreak post. A group of heartbroken people had written an anthology of sorrow. If only I had said what needed to be said that day. When we broke up, I thought I would meet countless people just like her in the future. Does a stubborn girl and a proud boy ever have a happy ending? Isabella sat on the carpet, her head bowed, her phone forgotten at her feet. She was just like most people experiencing their first real heartbreak. Clumsy in love, knowing nothing, naively believing that love could last forever. But when it all turned to smoke, all she could do was look back and sigh. We were all just a little short on talent when it came to love. P.S. Love, from one clumsy animal to another. The world was just that crazy. So crazy that Leo couldn't even begin to understand it. On this bright, sunny morning, Leo felt that if he saw a headline that said, "Global host standards plummet by 100%, only Leo Miller of the Cypress Lounge remains at original level, becomes world's top host after earning billions from a single hello, beautiful," he wouldn't even be surprised. Because nothing could be crazier than what was happening right in front of him. Leo stared in disbelief at Willow, who was sitting at his dining table. "You're saying you want to call off the engagement? MHM. Did you all plan this together? Huh? Do you have other fiancés?" Willow asked, looking bewildered as she sat at the table. "No, but your dad just barely got his standing back in the family. Why would you call off the engagement now?" "Because what I'm doing is wrong." Willow fidgeted with her fingers, quietly working through her logic. "Leo, I've thought it through. If I don't call off the engagement, I'll never have the right to tell you how I really feel." "And how do you really feel?" "I want to marry you." "Wait, hold on. Let me get this straight." Leo felt the world suddenly tilt into the abstract. He thought the internet was abstract, but his life was officially weirder. "You're calling off the engagement in order to get married." Leo mulled over the logic. "If you said that to a Trisolaran, its CPU would probably melt. You have to understand, your father's entire position in the family was secured through this alliance, he explained. If he loses the status of being Leo Miller's father-in-law, your uncle will be shitting on his head before the day is out. But I don't want that. Some things aren't about what you want or don't want, Willow. Leo grabbed a napkin, wiped his mouth, and walked over to her. Did Skylar's trip idea get to you? MHM. Well, you didn't go full dark side this time, so point for that. Leo gave her a thumbs up. But our engagement is a business decision. Losing it doesn't affect me much, but it's a huge loss for you. The Millers were a prominent family. If there were a local family power ranking, breaking an engagement with them would put you at the top of the trending list for all the wrong reasons. It would be a huge blow to Willow's reputation and her family's interests. I suggest you just keep the title. It doesn't matter to me either way. But if you're dead set on calling it off, you should go home and discuss it with your family first. Leo picked up his thermos and left, not forgetting to thank her on his way out. Thank for the thermos. It would be even better if it didn't have a pink pony on it. You're welcome. I bought 2 of them back then. Willow pointed to the cup. What did you put inside? I'm not telling you. The thermos contained Silas's secret recipe. At first, Leo had scoffed at it. What young guy needs to worry about his health? He was in his prime. But then Silas told him, I'm almost 50, and I can still maintain peak combat strength. After that, Leo treated the recipe like a sacred treasure. He had all but gotten on his knees and begged Silas for it. He had no choice. Leo pointed to her own thermos. What are you drinking? Willow's face turned bright red. It's just some stuff from maintenance. For your skin. Just go and stop asking questions. There were 4 days until New Year's. The Cypress Lounge had 2 sons. No, 2 partners. Jenny, the receptionist, watched in confusion as the junior partner personally wrote his own name back onto the active host list. Leo, are you short on cash lately? The old bastard gave me an ultimatum. After adding himself to the list, Leo took his thermos and walked through the front hall to the backyard. He'd been thinking about the trip the whole way. To be honest, he really could leave now without any worries. Even Isabella, the one person he'd been concerned about, had given him her blessing to go. What was left to hold him here? He shook his head. He might not even be able to complete the old man's task. Better not to think about it. He looked up and saw Seb and Julian sitting under a tree. They both shot to their feet. Hello, teacher. Hold on. Leo walked over, staring at their faces. Cousin, I can understand Seb calling me teacher, but you, the knowledgeable one, is the teacher. Besides, Silas told us to learn from you. You're a rich kid. What do you need to learn this stuff for? Julian looked around nervously and lowered his voice. Cousin, it was a bit rash last time. I've done some more digging since then, and I know you don't like using your status to just throw money at women. And so I've changed my approach. I'm going to come to the lounge and learn from you so I can create sister-in-laws for you the right way, through emotional connection. Get out. Leo kicked Julian away and turned to Seb. And what's your deal? I sincerely want to learn, Seb said with a deep, earnest bow. I don't care what either of you are thinking. If you're going to work here, you follow the rules. No rich kid tantrums. Leo, do we look like the kind of people who throw tantrums? Do either of you have any clients? Seb immediately shot his hand up. I do. Can you handle her? I'm having a little trouble. What kind of trouble? The woman keeps bragging about her Porsche Cayenne, going on and on about how expensive it is. And how did you respond? I told her that car isn't even that expensive, it drives just okay, and that a car like that isn't even worthy of being parked in my garage. You get out too. Leo flew up and kicked Seb as well. He looked at the 2 idiots, exasperated. Tell me what you're really here for, or both of you can scram. Seeing that Leo was getting serious, Seb's expression changed instantly. He sidled up to him. Leo, I've been staying in Riverbend all this time just to see you and Isabella get your happy ending. He grabbed Leo's arm, his gaunt, vampire-like face filled with pleading. Bro, please, you have to get back together with Isabella. Don't let her go back to Boston. Is it that serious? Of course it's serious. The 2 of you breaking up is more painful than if you just killed me. I can't sleep at night. My girlfriend even broke up with me. Wait, what? What does our breakup have to do with your girlfriend? She said you 2 really weren't a good match, so I called a cab and told her to get lost. Leo stared at Seb in disbelief. The guy's expression didn't look like he was joking. I can understand your deep-seated fear of Isabella, but how did you end up teaming up with Julian? He said he has a way to get the Shung family to call off the engagement. That gives Isabella a chance. Seb enthusiastically grabbed Julian's arm. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? What had started as idle workplace banter suddenly became very important. Leo pulled Julian aside. What's this about calling off the engagement? Julian adjusted the tie of his work uniform and smiled, patting Leo on the shoulder. Cousin, you'll see in a minute. Don't be cryptic with me. You really just have to wait a little. The client I invited is about to arrive. A woman with curly hair and a face mask walked into the lounge, politely greeting Jenny at the front desk. I'm here for an appointment with Julian. I have a reservation right here. I'll let him know you've arrived. No need to tell him. I'm here to see Leo. Then please wait one moment. Jenny dialed Leo's number while graciously pouring the client a glass of water. Being able to chat was a basic requirement for a receptionist at the lounge. Ma'am, judging by your accent, are you from Boston? I am. Julian is from Boston, too. You must be friends. You could say we're relatives. Got it. And how should I address you? You can call me Clem. The woman smiled, her eyes crinkling above the mask. She seemed very approachable. Ms. Clem. Leo entered the serenity room again. He didn't study the woman's appearance. When meeting face to face, even the most subtle glances could be detected and cause trouble. Why aren't you looking at me? It would be impolite. When a man and a woman are on a first date, politeness isn't a good thing, you know? It creates distance. Ms. Clem stood up from the table. So, shouldn't we be getting a little closer? Hearing his own dating advice quoted back to him, Leo's face broke into a smile, though inwardly he cursed. Damn it, this is a high-level match. Ma'am, I've never met a girl as forward as you. You're making me blush. Leo's face actually turned red. He shifted backward, looking shy. The point of the push and pull was to reach an ambiguous communication boundary. With a passive type like Isabella, you had to pull closer. But with an aggressive type, you had to pull away. By staying on that blurry line, you could attack or defend as needed. And what was an easier way to pull away than by pretending to be an innocent choir boy? Ms. Clem kept her eyes fixed on Leo's face. Leo, you're not what I imagined. At least you have something to compare me to. I can't even see your real face. I'm not pretty. Clem waved her hand dismissively. A woman who dares to go out without makeup is never ugly. I just find makeup boring. I don't have anyone I want to impress. Impress yourself. Do I need to wear makeup every day to impress myself? Clem snorted softly. At least, I'm not as pretty as your fiancé. My fiancé and you have completely different styles. What's her style? Leo held up his thermos. A pink pony. Then what do you think my style is? At the very least, a magnificent tiger. Is that any way to talk about a woman? How about a pink tiger? Thank you, I like that very much, Ms. Clem said, taking off her mask and sitting on the tatami mat. But for now, I don't like pink. She paused, her eyes locking with his. However, if I were becoming a new fiancé, I wouldn't mind learning to. If you want to be my fiancé, you'd better be prepared to sleep alone, Leo said, twisting the cap off his drink. The bitter scent alone was enough to make his face pucker. If this were soda, he wouldn't have touched it. But as a health tonic, Leo could only assume that the more it tasted like poison, the better it was for you. But the next words out of Clem's mouth nearly made him spit out the life-giving sludge. I don't mind sleeping alone, because I know I'm not as beautiful as the others. After taking off her mask, Clem's face was, objectively speaking, plain. There was no artful makeup, no trace of cosmetic procedures. It was just a face, unadorned and honest. But her words and gestures were filled with an unshakable, aristocratic confidence. But I can accept things as they are, she said, including your very particular lovers. Ma'am, I suggest we drop the fiancé topic. Right now, my only role is to be your host. This is just an introduction. I'm not so naive as to think you'd accept me after one meeting. I won't be accepting you at all, Leo said. I'm quite satisfied with the current state of affairs. No, you're not. You feel guilty about Peyton, but you're powerless against the gossip and judgment of the world. Clem unwound the scarf from her neck, her voice dropping to a murmur. Human nature being what it is, the whispers will never stop. Oh, and you have a solution, I take it. Leo shot back playfully. He didn't bother asking how she knew so much. She had obviously done her homework, digging up every last detail about him. The best way to quiet a storm is to create a bigger one, Clem said, her eyes glinting with certainty. You divert their attention. So if I were your fiancé, I would personally bring Peyton back to the Miller family home. The subject of their gossip would shift from her to me. I would become the center of the storm. A faint smile touched Clem's lips. Survival is competition. You win by doing what others can't. Among your collection of beautiful confidants, the ones who could do it don't have the standing to be your fiancé. And the two who do have the standing, they wouldn't dare. Her confidence was a fortress. She had come prepared, having analyzed his entire situation and devised the perfect wife strategy for him. You have two candidates for a wife, she continued, ticking them off mentally. Ms. Vance can't tolerate the existence of anyone else. Your other fiancé, well, she has a gentle nature, but can she really keep the others in line? I know you don't want to handle family business, but it's unavoidable. I can help you with that. I know Peyton could do it, but she doesn't have a right to step through the Miller family's door right now. I know you have many lovers. I won't control your life. I know you're devoted to your mother. Believe me, my family upbringing ensures I can do the same. She paused, letting her proposal hang in the air. She had painted a picture of the perfect partner for him, the one she believed was his ideal match. She gave him the silence to consider it. But Leo didn't need to think. Lots of benefits. What's the catch? For you? There is no catch. I don't buy it. God doesn't just hand out free gifts. Leo grinned, relaxing back onto the tatama mat, no longer bothering with formalities. She wasn't here for the service anyway. So, you must be related to Julian, right? Julian's mother is my aunt. From a prominent family in Boston, I hear. Leo asked, curious. What do your people think of my eldest uncle? A lunatic, Clem said without a hint of hesitation. Is that how Julian sees him, too? Yes. Leo understood now. So Julian's whole song and dance had absolutely nothing to do with pleading his father's case. The last time Julian was in Riverbend was over 20 years ago. What kind of relationship could he possibly have with his father? Then why did he go to Isabella Vance? Because he's been scheming to get the Shung family to break the engagement, but he was afraid you'd take it out on him if you found out. So he chose Ms. Vance as a buffer. A scapegoat, you mean, Leo said. He knows I'd never do anything to Isabella. Julian is a fool. I told him clearly that Ms. Vance would never agree to such a thing. You keep calling her Miss Vance. You know her well. We've met once. Leo actually believed that. That kind of intrinsic, radiating confidence was rare. Among the people he knew, only Isabella Vance had an aura that could match Clem's. In that case, I suggest you leave. Isabella will be here any minute. I'm in no rush, Clem said coolly. What's the harm in seeing her? Isabella arrived a little earlier than her appointment. She hadn't slept a wink. The pain of heartbreak had washed over her in waves, a relentless drumbeat against her heart. It didn't hurt exactly. It just trembled. She'd been trying to seriously analyze the feeling since morning. A person in love thinks the whole world has changed. But when that love is gone, they realize the world doesn't change at all. The sun rises on schedule, ants continue their tireless work, and there's always a first grader struggling to tie their school scarf. At the Cypress Lounge, the receptionist, Jenny, was still hunched over her desk, secretly watching reality TV on her phone with one earbud in. The lucky cat, its waving arm glued back on, was still smiling its cheap, beckoning smile. Ms. Vance, welcome. Jenny shot up from her desk, her smile genuine as she hurried over with a bottle of water. What's that scent you use in here? Moroccan cedar. The top notes are spice, incense, clove, and aldehyde. The heart is woodsy, with cedar, and the base is oriental spice, amber, balsam, benzoin, and vanilla. It's a captivating blend of woodsy and sweet, don't you think? Isabella had heard the spiel before. The lounge had used the same incense for years. You could smell it in every corner except the kitchen. She remembered asking Leo about it once. Why doesn't the lounge ever change the scent? For a little novelty, because reliance comes from only one thing. Habit, he had told her. Novelty, no matter how long it lasts, will always fade. Only habit becomes a familiar comfort zone. The memory was a pinprick, and her eyes started to well up again. She hated her traitorous tear ducts. Jenny glanced at her out of the corner of her eye, a pack of tissues clutched in her hand, but she didn't offer it. She was a master of slacking off without ever getting a complaint, all thanks to one skill, reading the room. Offering tissues right now would be like pointing out a flaw. But there was one thing she had to say. Ms. Vance, Leo just told me that if you arrived, you could go straight to the serenity room. He's here already. He's just finishing up with another client. Hearing that, Isabella froze, the foot she had just lifted slowly returning to the floor. In the past, even if Leo hadn't said anything, she would have stormed right in. But this time, she sat down quietly on the sofa by the entrance, clutching the water bottle and breathing in the familiar scent. My appointment isn't for a little while, she said softly. I'll wait. I don't want to disturb him. P.S. Porridge. She said she doesn't want to disturb me. Leo listened to Jenny's report over the phone, his mind a constellation of question marks. Were those words that could actually come out of Isabella Vance's mouth? Fine, if she doesn't want to come in, she doesn't have to. Leo glanced at the time on his phone, then turned back to Clem. Let's wrap this up. I'm not in the mood to think about fiancés right now. Willow Shung is fine. When it comes to things like this, Clueless is a lot less trouble than clever. Damn, Frank Miller really can't keep his mouth shut. But Leo, Clem said, her voice even, as the sole heir to the Miller family, watched by so many, Can you really escape your destiny as the successor? Correction, Leo said, stretching lazily and sipping a glass of soda water. It's not escaping. You made me sound like a coward. This is my choice, a rather immature choice. And you choosing to attract me with a value proposition is also a rather immature choice. Years from now, you'll regret this decision. Maybe, Leo said, flashing a bright, boyish grin. But that's a problem for years from now. If I choose your way, I'll regret it tomorrow. Gonna have fun for a few years before regretting it sounds pretty good to me. He leaned forward. I've been watching a lot of travel influencer videos lately. The comments are interesting. Some people are cheering them on, saying, "You're living my dream." They wish they could live like that. But others argue that your precious youth should be spent building a career and accumulating wealth. Who do you think is wrong? Neither of them. Stepping out of the conventional framework is a personal choice. The only ones who are wrong are the people who can't do it themselves, but still sneer at those who are brave enough to try. All ridicule has a reason, right? Jealousy. A nearly rabid jealousy. Leo walked over to Clem, leaning down to whisper, "I'm talking about you, Ms. Clem." Clem looked up, meeting his gaze without flinching. Was it necessary to name names? Some people have to see the writing on the wall before they believe it. I never cry over men. Good habit. Keep it up. Leo, I will have that position as your fiancé. I'm determined. Good luck with that. Leo didn't say more. He glanced at the old grandfather clock on the wall, then stepped back with a polite smile. Our session has now concluded. I sincerely hope you have a pleasant day. Clem didn't press the issue. She simply nodded and left. No need to see me out. I'll get docked if I don't. I'm instructing you not to. And I have to. I'm afraid you'll file a complaint. Clem didn't argue, but a look of surprise crossed her face. Leo, if you go traveling, what happens to the lounge? If I'm number one in sales of the Starlight Gala, Silas promised to stick it out for another 2 years. Is that why you're taking clients again? What else? So you're planning on padding your own numbers? Leo shook his head. What's the point in cheating at something like this? I see, Clem said, a look of sudden understanding on her face. It's a coin toss, isn't it? So the reason you didn't throw me out is because you were genuinely treating me as a client? What did you think? Interested in being my top patron? You're trying to take my money. I'll only take money that's given willingly. As Clem reached the entrance, she saw Isabella Vance sitting on the sofa, confident, poised, exuding power with every breath. After telling Leo to stay back so she could have a private word, Clem walked directly toward her. Ms. Vance, it's been a while. Hello. Isabella acknowledged her, but didn't bother to look up. Clem couldn't even tell if the blue-eyed woman on the sofa remembered her. It was clear Isabella had no interest in seeing her face. Ms. Vance, we met 2 years ago at a charity gala in Boston. I'm Clem. Oh, I know who you are. Isabella finally glanced up, but it was just a fleeting look. She pulled her hands from her sleeves, her gaze fixed on the lucky cat in the distance. But not because of the gala. It's because you're Julian Miller's cousin. It seems my arrival with Julian has put you on high alert. Why would I be on high alert? Isabella turned to face Clem, her expression one of genuine confusion. Some people are just covered in thorns. They hurt others without even realizing it. Just like now, when Clem saw that bewildered look in Isabella's eyes, a sharp, stinging feeling of being utterly dismissed washed over her. Do you know why I'm here, Miss Vance? To find a rich man to marry. Unfortunately for you, we're both looking at the same man. Yes, Isabella said, her brow furrowed. But you still haven't explained why I should be on high alert. Clem could see the profound question mark in Isabella's eyes. She knew it wasn't intentional. Isabella was simply, purely, asking why she should be wary. And that, somehow, was the most cutting insult of all. It meant that in Isabella's subconscious, Clem didn't even register as a threat worthy of caution. Why should I be wary of you? At the front desk, Jenny sensed the crackling tension. She quietly put on her earbuds, but turned her phone's volume all the way down. The earbuds were to avoid making the clients feel like she was eavesdropping. Turning the volume down was pure, unadulterated human nature. When you're watching drama unfold, you always pick a side. Jenny, as always, was Team Isabella. Why as always? Because this had happened countless times before. Leo was a notorious heartbreaker, and plenty of clients had tried to cling to him. If they had all stuck around, Leo would have a damn soccer team trailing him by now. And you know why they didn't? Because Ms. Vance shut them down. She didn't have to say a thing. She'd just sit there, give you one look with that imperious expression, and the air would instantly fill with contempt. The psychological pressure was immense. Almost no one could last 3 rounds in a stare-down with Ms. Vance. She was just too formidable. In a place like the Cypress Lounge, you could go years without seeing someone who was so untouchable on every conceivable level. Now that some top-dollar client was trying to invade Leo's personal life, who else would even dare to compete? Take her down, Isabella. Protect our boy Leo. Clem took a few quiet, deep breaths. This was nowhere near enough to break her composure. Ms. Vance, I think you should try to keep Leo here. I'm his ex-girlfriend. It's perfectly normal for couples to get back together. Clem waited for a response, but Isabella didn't answer. Clem could have handled a sharp retort. Something like, do you take me for a fool? You think I want you two to get back together? Even a simple, mind your own business, would have been acceptable. The one thing she couldn't handle was the silence. Isabella just sat there, looking at her eyes completely devoid of emotion. A downward curving sneer was a trick for wannabe influencers to attract followers. True contempt was no reaction at all. Clem knew this conversation was over. She played her last card. Leo is hesitant about leaving. I suspect he's using the Starlight Gala as a kind of coin toss. Heads he leaves, tails he stays. She hadn't even finished her sentence. Isabella was already 2 steps away, leaving only a single word behind. But, as an observer, Jenny watched Clem's expression from the corner of her eye. When she saw not a flicker of negative emotion, she gave her a mental thumbs up. If it had been her on the receiving end of that treatment from Ms. Vance, her self-esteem would have shattered, and she'd be crying in a corner. Wait, why would Ms. Vance ever yell at me? I'm her biggest fan, Jenny muttered to herself, then turned her head and saw that Ms. Vance was now standing right beside her, staring. It sent a jolt of fear through her. Ms. Vance, I wasn't saying anything bad about you. Then what were you saying? I was saying I hope you and Leo have 10 long-legged, mixed-race babies. One with curly hair, one with black hair, one with blonde hair, one with brown eyes, one with black eyes, another one with blue eyes. We broke up. People in love always find their way back to each other, right? We broke up, Isabella repeated, her tone final. Don't say things like that again. Got it, Ms. Vance. Jenny nodded like a bobblehead, watching as Isabella went to the back courtyard to get Leo. Wiping a bead of cold sweat from her brow, Jenny started counting the thick wad of cash Isabella had left on the counter as she'd said, Don't say things like that again. Ms. Vance is the best. Anyone who doesn't like her is in for a world of hurt. What did Clem say to you? Leo asked, curious, as a session with Isabella began. What's the Starlight Gala? Just a marketing event. There'll be performances, fireworks, and a bunch of ways for people to spend money. Can you be number one? I don't have any clients. How could I be number one? So if you don't get first place, you won't leave? I'll find another way, I guess. Leo didn't really want to talk about it because Clem had been right. The gala was a coin toss, a part of his psychological preparation. Because staying and leaving were 2 distinct choices, the same 2 choices the old patriarch had left him. If he stayed, he could still live freely for a few more years. But as he got older, getting involved in the Miller family business was inevitable. Because of children. That was something he hadn't considered before. He could hide away in the lounge, but would his children have to go through another car crash? Anything could happen in a family like theirs. If he didn't have control, he could end up just like his Uncle Frank back in the day. A risk like that, Leo could never ignore. If he left, it would be the choice that followed his heart. Lately, Leo felt more and more that leaving was the decision he had made long ago. His subconscious had always resisted the family business. Why? Because the man he was before the amnesia was still him, and some of those thoughts were still influencing him, unseen. So staying and leaving are the 2 choices before me, Leo said, pouring a glass of wine with candid honesty. He felt this was a good state to be in, finally able to speak his mind calmly with Isabella. Isabella took off her shoes and leaned against the wall, closing her eyes. What's the benefit of staying? She asked softly. I could take care of everyone, eliminate any potential risks. And the benefit of leaving, Leo said, sitting cross-legged on the mat, is that I don't want to stay. He treated it like a casual topic of conversation. But he couldn't have known that on September 10th, in a corner of the lounge's second-floor balcony, another young man had been grappling with the very same question. A question that could be summarized as, Leo, will you live your life for others, or will you live it for yourself? So do you think I should go? Leo asked casually. Does it matter what I think? Isabella said, sipping her drink with her head lowered. We're just talking. As friends. The internet says you shouldn't be friends with your ex. The internet also says not to be so stubborn in a relationship. Why didn't you listen to that? I pay to be here, not to be lectured. All right, you win. Even though they were bickering, Leo was grinning. That wasn't unusual. He was always smiling. But Isabella was smiling too. The tension in the room seemed to dissolve, carried away on the tendrils of incense smoke, leaving only harmony behind. For the past few months, they had seemed so close, yet it felt like an eternity since they had just sat and talked peacefully. Leo thought, this is actually really nice. It wasn't just them. So many couples go through it. After being together for so long, they forget why they fell in love in the first place. In the beginning, you were just curious about each other. You just wanted to sit and talk, right? They sat across from each other on the tatami mat. Isabella's hand, holding her wine glass, never seemed to rest. Her complexion barely changed when she drank, so it was hard to tell if she was drunk. Leo didn't hold back either. It would have been cruel to do so, but he wasn't a great drinker, and soon he was feeling the warm buzz of a light intoxication. He was already talkative, and the alcohol only amplified it. Isabella, I don't actually recommend being friends after a breakup either. Why not? Because it gives you the illusion that I'm still with you, just in a different way. I don't get it, but I'm happy with how things are right now. But I won't be taking clients forever. Leo took a deep breath. If things could always be like this, he wouldn't have to say what came next. He placed his glass on the table. I might be leaving. Is the probability high? Very. Leo finally let the words out. For the past few days, the thought had been growing uncontrollably in his mind. He really did want to go out and see the world. Everything felt like it was leading to this. His subconscious was pointing him in this direction. He was a student who barely went to class, a third-generation heir who refused to take over the family business, a host who was tired of the nightlife. After all the storms he'd weathered, where did his future really lie? Maybe my future has been here all along. Leo looked up, his eyes shining. So, I probably won't be your host anymore after this. Okay, you should support me, right? Leo remembered what she'd said yesterday. Just let me know before you go. Isabella rested her head on the table, gently massaging her temples. She looked like she'd had too much to drink. Just like that, she seemed to fall asleep. Leo sighed with a wry smile and gently walked over to pat her shoulder. Want to sleep in one of the guest rooms? Home, she mumbled. I'll take you. Leo carefully lifted her onto his back, pushed open the door, and walked out. And there, clinging to his back, Isabella proceeded to shatter every last stereotype of the proud, unyielding ice queen. It wasn't just that she was prone to tears. She also talked in her sleep. Honestly, it was kind of cute. Leo thought that people like Isabella were classic hedgehogs. Get too close, and you discover she's covered in spikes, preventing most people from ever reaching her heart. But there's no absolute good or bad in the world. Because so few people ever got that close, the precious few experiences she did have were impossible for her to let go of. If you were a casual person with a dozen new friends every day, losing one wouldn't faze you. But if your entire world of intimacy contained only one person, you would never forget their departure. The walk from the back courtyard to the parking lot in the alley was a long one. Across the cobblestone path, past 17 weeping crabapple trees, by the pachinko machine at the front desk, and under the warm yellow glow of the lounge's sign. The lantern light made the painted demons on the walls look almost cheerful. Isabella murmured against his back. Leo, did you ever like me? Yes. Love hides in many places. In the letters you write, in the social media posts you make. And, of course, it was hidden in the moment Leo had reached out and stroked her hair after hearing her story all that time ago. You don't like me. Who wouldn't like a blue-eyed goddess who grants every wish? You don't like me. If you insist on being stubborn, then fine, I don't like you, Leo said, carrying her to the car and setting her down as he opened the door. Isabella was in a complete daze now, occasionally spouting nonsense. It was impossible to know if she was even lucid. Leo, you don't like me? Okay, time for sleep. The car moved through the city, the only sound in the cabin the soft rhythm of her breathing. Isabella kept whispering, Don't go, Leo. I've already backed down, but you won't even leave me a chance to see you. These were words you would never hear from a sober Isabella Vance. A proud, stubborn woman is one thing. But what about when she's drunk and crying? Leo didn't know what other people would do in this situation. All he knew was that he kept his eyes on the road, driving straight ahead. I'm hungry. Let's eat. Isabella's voice suddenly cut through the silence. What do you want? The night market. Fine. Leo parked the car and helped her into the bustling market. She ate a few bites of fried noodles, and they returned to the car. 30 minutes passed. Leo, I want some water. I bought some at the convenience store earlier. Not juice. Mineral water. I bought that too. I want a Coke. You're messing with me, aren't you? Fine, wait here. I'm coming too. Leo once again helped Isabella out of the car and into the store, then they hurried back. Another 20 minutes wasted. Leo, I want to get out and walk. Fine. Leo had stopped asking why. He just helped her out of the car. They walked a bit and then hurried back again. Leo, I want to... We're at your house. No more wants. I left something at the lounge. Let's go back and get it. It's not like I'm leaving tomorrow, Leo said, his patience wearing thin. He wanted to be angry, but he couldn't. What ill intentions could Isabella possibly have? He knew exactly what she was thinking. She just wanted to spend a little more time with him. So when is the Starlight Gala? Tomorrow. Oh, even if I do leave, it won't be until after the new year. But will you still be taking clients after tomorrow? No. Leo leaned back in his seat. But you can still find me if you want to. We've broken up. I can't see you privately. Isabella pulled her camel-colored coat over herself like a blanket, her glossy high heels still on. Then why did you come to the lounge to find me? I missed you. But the internet says it's normal to miss your ex after a breakup. So do you support me leaving? No, Isabella said, turning her head away. Hey, why are you changing your tune again? Leo's tone was teasing. He knew that when she was sober, you had to take the opposite of what she said. But he hadn't expected her to suddenly sit up, her blue eyes inches from his. He could see the reflection of the streetlights in her pupils. Leo, she said, aren't you supposed to be able to see into a woman's heart? I'm not a mind reader. Of course I can. Yes, you can. Her body swayed drunkenly as she scrambled over from the passenger seat, half leaning against him, but her eyes were startlingly bright. You just don't want to see into mine. Where is this coming from? I've thought about it for a long time. All those relationship experiences I made you do when I was paying you, they were all meaningless. How so? Leo didn't argue. He had forgotten most of it, so he could only listen. You had 1,000 ways to wrap me around your finger. You could have just given me the happy parts of a relationship, skipping all the mundane stuff. If I was happy, I would have given you anything. That's what a normal boy toy does. And you're not a normal boy toy. Of course not. Leo tried to move her head off his shoulder, but she wouldn't budge. Instead, she bit him. If I were a normal boy toy, we wouldn't be sitting here together right now. So you never liked me. She seemed fixated on this point. Isabella, I don't know if the old me liked you, but knowing myself now. Leo hesitated. He knew what she meant. If he had really liked her, he would have acted like a proper gigolo, showering her with affection and giving her the perfect romantic experience. But if he had been a normal boy toy, would she still like him today? After a long pause, Leo spoke, his voice heavy. I can't believe I'm the kind of person who wouldn't take money when it's offered. If I was already a boy toy, what's the point of a moral bottom line? So maybe not selling my pride was the only way I could ever truly get close to you. The story is always different depending on the perspective. From Isabella's point of view, maybe Leo was a man of iron, always holding his ground, never moved. Even the post-amnesia Leo had thought his past self was some kind of Sigma male. What a badass to be so heartless. But can anyone truly remain heartless after spending so much time with someone? Leo didn't think he could, especially after the memories of Peyton and Evelyn had returned. In those unique, unrepeatable experiences, it wasn't just the women who were deeply affected. He was too, because he was a living, breathing person. If he truly had no feelings at all, why else would I have forgotten you? Leo shook his head with a bitter smile, got out of the driver's seat, and lifted the once again sleeping Isabella into his arms to carry her into the villa. The woman whispered in his arms. The road back was so long. It was only 8 miles, the man answered softly. We passed 17 traffic lights, 42 trash cans, 3 night markets, and 12 convenience stores. And 1 Doberman, Leo added. The big dog, holding an empty bowl in its mouth, looked up at Leo with a wagging tail, its expression quizzical. Can you not leave Riverbend, Leo? Why? The dog will miss you. Oh, I won't miss it. The big dog seemed to understand, letting out a huff and trotting back to its doghouse with the bowl. Isabella seemed to understand, too. But I'll miss you, she whispered. Oh, can you please not go? Isabella, no matter what, today was the last time I'll be your host. Leo's eyes narrowed into a smile. If you've decided to make a clean break, you have to be thorough. Otherwise, you'll be the one who gets hurt in the end. Isabella fell silent. Even in her drunken state, those words would normally send her into a rage. She struggled out of his arms and stumbled towards the door alone. Leo just stood there, watching her. Watched her fumble with the keypad. Watched her pound the door in frustration. Watched her sink to the ground, sobbing into her hands. Watched her turn her head to look back at him one last time. Leo, she said, her voice choked with tears, I'll take one more step back. I'll never go to the lounge to see you again. Can you just, please not leave Riverbend? In that instant, Leo felt a sharp sting in his nose. Something inside him had just been struck. He walked over and knelt down, looking quietly into those blue eyes. Isabella, professionally, I can't help you in your life. Even my biggest asset, my identity as a rich heir, means nothing next to you. Personally, I no longer have the right to be in a relationship with anyone. I've already promised to be responsible for 2 other women. I don't want any of that. Just don't leave Riverbend, okay? Why? Because I'm afraid if you go, I'll never get the chance to see you again. Isabella's traitorous tear ducts finally had their moment, and she began to sob uncontrollably. But it couldn't move the man in front of her. He just made placating noises, opened the door, and carried her to her bedroom. Looking at the woman drifting in and out of consciousness, he found himself, for once, speechless. A heavy pressure settled in his chest. Staying would be easy, but what would it solve? In fact, this just gave him another reason why he had to leave. He and Isabella were fated to be apart. If this had happened 2 months ago, Leo would have held her without a second thought. She had given him what he wanted, so he could give her what she wanted. But times had changed. Everything was different. Gaining something and losing something are 2 sides of the same coin. To get one, you must lose the other. And in this, Leo had no one and nothing to blame. The moment he accepted Peyton, his fate with Isabella was sealed. But Leo didn't really have any regrets. He had said what needed to be said and done what needed to be done. The only thing to blame was that their fate was too shallow. Learning how to express yourself is a lifelong lesson. As children, our words are clumsy. As adults, our words are not from the heart. If only Isabella had learned to express her feelings sooner. But then, she wouldn't be Isabella. Isabella, he said softly, get some sleep. Good night. P.S. More later question. When your ex-girlfriend is passed out on her bed, what should you do? Leo didn't know the standard answer. But at that moment, he was on the phone with another ex-girlfriend. Hello, Summer? What's up? It's late. Just wanted to let you know, after the holidays, I'm probably leaving. Leaving? Where are you going? Just out. To travel, see things. Oh, okay. Do you want to leave a key with me? In case of a leak or something, I can check on the place. No need. My mom's staying. Your mom's staying. Leo was confused. You're going alone? Yeah. Okay. A brief, awkward silence fell between them. Neither knew what to say. Are you home? She asked. I'm at Isabella's. Oh, okay. I'll let you go then. All right. Leo had no idea what was going on with Summerlin. He hung up, turned off the light, and prepared to leave. The lamp was on the nightstand, conveniently placed. Also on the nightstand was Isabella's phone. The screen kept lighting up with notifications. A busy woman's life. Leo had no interest in her work secrets, but one notification caught his eye. Your favorite relationship expert, Dr. Dottie, is now live. So she really watches this stuff? On a strange impulse, Leo picked up her phone. He unlocked in seconds and tapped on Dr. Dottie's TikTok profile. The content was nothing special, just someone sharing relationship advice. Dr. Dottie was clearly in the mature advice camp, not talking about how to attract a partner, but more about the practical emotional labor of life. A quick glance at Isabella's liked videos told the whole story. How to win back your man's heart, what to do when your man is cheating, how to properly manage your marriage. Leo scratched his head, a small smile playing on his lips as he backed out of her likes and went to the live stream. That was a mistake. As soon as he entered, he realized Isabella must have been a frequent donor. Dr. Dottie, who only had a few hundred viewers, spent a full 2 minutes welcoming her. Jun, did your husband come home today? Was it just Dr. Dottie asking? Viewers in the chat were asking too. Apparently, Isabella had paid to join the stream and share her story before. The sense of cognitive dissonance was staggering. Could you imagine the Isabella Vance secretly calling into a live stream to talk about her relationship problems? Holy hell. Leo was about to silently exit when a comment popped up, aimed at him. At Jun, cheating men should be castrated. There's no point in trying to win him back. Leo's fingers were already flying towards the keyboard to launch a counterattack when he saw a pair of blue eyes watching him from the bed. You're awake. Water. Oh, right. Leo quickly brought her a glass, gently wiping a stray drop from her lips. You were only out for a little while. I was drunk earlier. Nothing I said counts. If you were really drunk, you'd have blacked out. You shouldn't remember anything. I don't remember what I said. You're cute. Leo grinned, his teeth flashing. But in the next second, her blue eyes were right in front of him. Yes, I do remember, she said, her voice clear. So will you choose me? What are you even talking about? Leo, will you choose me? Where was this energy before? I was wrong. When those 3 words came out, the very air in the bedroom seemed to freeze. Even the soft moonlight filtering through the curtains felt like it had turned rigid. Isabella continued. Be with me. I'll travel the world with you. As for Peyton and Evelyn, I can give them a very large sum of money as compensation. I know it's not enough, but for me to not go to war with them and instead offer compensation. This is the biggest concession I could possibly make. Leo understood. For any normal person in a relationship, offering to compensate your partner's other lovers was an act of incredible generosity. For someone like Isabella Vance, it was a miracle. But can you ever really go back? Leo didn't speak. He just shook his head, very clearly, then turned and left the room. Isabella didn't say another word. Loss is a more powerful teacher than encouragement. It's just that the price of tuition is so incredibly painful. After so long, Isabella had finally grown through loss. Later, she finally learned how to love. It was just a pity that what was missed would never come again. That night, more than one person was tossing and turning. Vincent and Winston Shung sat facing each other in the dead of night. When breaking off the engagement is a good thing. Brother, do you think my Willow is a damn soccer ball you could just kick around? Winston slammed his hand on the table, spun on his heel, and stormed out without giving his older brother an ounce of respect. This scene had become increasingly common since the engagement party. The old saying about a father-in-law's status rising with his son-in-law was no joke. Winston was finally living up to his nickname, Win, and could bark at Vincent whenever he pleased. After he left, Vincent sat alone at the table. The victor wore a placid expression, turning his gaze to the two figures who had just emerged from a side room, Clem and Julian Miller. Mr. Julian, you saw for yourself. My brother is dead set against it. Since when does a family alliance require the parents' consent? Clem said, taking a seat while Julian stood respectfully by her side. If you were to go to Rick Miller and propose breaking the engagement, he's not the type to cling to it shamelessly. But Frank Miller has a terrible temper, Vincent said with difficulty. My third uncle is perfectly pleasant, Julian countered. We never crossed paths when I was young, but I've seen him frequently these past few days. He's quite amiable. After staying with the Millers for a while and being treated with warmth, Julian had taken the opportunity to observe them. He found that Rick wasn't the schemer rumors made him out to be, and Frank wasn't a hothead. They were both quite warm. Clem, however, offered no opinion on the Millers. She simply said, success always comes at a price. Are you content to spend your whole life living in the shadow of the Miller family? Throughout history, lines like a real man can't live long under another's shadow were conversational dynamite. They sparked assassinations, coups, civil wars. For an ambitious man, it was a call to arms. So in Clem's eyes, this line was sure to have an effect on Vincent Shung. She hadn't counted on his response. Yes, I am, Vincent said with a firm nod, his face showing not a shred of ambition, only satisfaction with his current lot. Why wouldn't you stand under a big tree? You think money is easy to make these days? Julian glanced at Clem, but she remained perfectly composed. No tall grass grows in the shadow of a great tree, she said. Being a small blade of grass is fine by me. Vincent was the very picture of contentment. But even being a small blade of grass depends on your younger brother, Clem said pointedly, gesturing to the chair he occupied. She had seen the way Winston had just stormed out. This time, Vincent didn't speak. A dark look crossed his face. In the past, would his brother have dared to turn his back on him and walk out? Never. But now he did it without a second thought. Edward Miller was once deeply tied to you. We were originally on the same side, Vincent said, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. He and the eldest Miller brother were indeed close. He had provided Edward with a great deal of help over the years. And I'm not here to devour the Miller family, Clem continued. I just need the status of a fiancé to participate in their family affairs. And what gives you the right to do that? Because Leo Miller has no interest in it. This was Clem's true objective. Coming from Boston, a normal marriage alliance would have required the elders to negotiate openly. The only reason she was resorting to these back-alley tactics was because she knew Leo didn't want to be the heir. It was the perfect situation. You can go play all you want around the world. I'll be your wife and manage the family business for you. Leo's no fool. He's just a child who hasn't grown up. Clem clearly had a low opinion of Leo himself. They were not cut from the same cloth. Please consider it, Uncle Vincent. Clem gave him ample time to think, then left with a polite smile. Once they were back in the car, Julian couldn't contain his curiosity. Cousin, what's the plan for the Starlight Gala tomorrow? Leo won't be able to leave. Can his life choices really be decided by something so trivial? You don't understand the psychology of a coin tosser, Clem explained. Before the coin is flipped, they're full of indecision. But the moment the coin is in the air, they already know, in their hearts, which side they want it to land on. What if his answer is to leave? Whether he leaves or not truly depends on Isabella Vance. I will be inviting Ms. Vance to watch the gala. She certainly doesn't want Leo to go. Dad, I want to break off the engagement. Willow, who had been waiting at home all day, rushed out as soon as she heard the door open. "Did your uncle talk to you?" Winston looked at his daughter, momentarily flustered, and could only assume his brother was behind this. "No, I just want to break it off. Everything was fine." "What? Dad, Now that the moment was here, Willow found herself tongue-tied. She felt selfish. Between her personal happiness and her family's interests, any choice she made felt wrong. "Honey, tell me what's wrong," Elaine Shung said, emerging from her room and gently taking her daughter's arm. "Mom, I did something wrong." Willow looked up, her face etched with hesitation. "I know this might sound childish, but if I'm still his fiancé, there's no way Leo and I can ever really be together." "What did Leo say?" "Since the engagement party, Leo and I have grown very distant. He said I could keep the title of fiancé, so I would achieve my original goal. But Mom, I don't want to be tied to him through a transaction anymore. I want to pursue him just once with a clean slate." Elaine knew exactly what she meant and sighed. Winston, however, was still blustering cluelessly. "Did Leo bully you? I'll go fight him to the death." "Oh, sit down," Elaine said, shooting him an exasperated look before pulling Willow onto the sofa. "Willow, from any angle, Leo hasn't done anything wrong, so you can't blame him." "I know, Mom. It seems my Willow has really grown up. She has a boy she likes." Elaine stroked her daughter's hair, her proud expression tinged with the sadness of seeing her little girl get ready to fly the nest. "Willow, I can't give you specific advice on this, but I support your decision to break the engagement." "Mom, I just feel bad about it. I was the one who proposed it, and now I'm the one who wants to end it." "But that's what growing up is," Elaine said softly, letting her daughter lean on her shoulder. "Everyone goes through this stage. You make mistakes, you correct them, and then you've grown." "Mom, I'm worried my decision will affect our family." Willow was genuinely concerned. She felt a strong sense of belonging to her family. Even though Winston had been effectively exiled to the north for a few years, he was never cast out completely, and the elders had always shown Willow great affection. It was a world away from the abandoned heir returns for revenge script Leo had been handed, or the rebellious independence of Isabella. "Willow, everyone has the right to boldly pursue love." At this, Elaine shot a glare at Winston, making him squirm. "Officially, that's a burden your father should bear. Privately, your father, and I just want you to be happy." "That's right. I'll bear it. I'm no coward." Winston thumped his chest. "Frank Miller is back on his feet now. I could just be his right-hand man like in the old days. We'll be fine." "Thank you, Mom, Dad." Willow's gentle, slow-moving nature was a product of a warm and loving home. The cost of making mistakes in her life had always been low, allowing her to live a calm, peaceful life like still water. She had never faced any real storms, which is why, when confronted with unfamiliar troubles, she would panic, act foolishly, and fumble. But she would never run away, and she would never do nothing. That was the courage her family had given her. Courage is a rare human virtue. No one can see the whole picture from a God's eye view. So when faced with the unexpected, taking that brave first step is far more difficult than trying to figure out the correct move. That was why Leo had never shown much disgust for Willow's bizarre dark turns. He had an incredible capacity for empathy, a basic prerequisite for his profession. He actually admired that quality in her. It wasn't so much a turn to darkness as it was an expression of an innate, persistent courage. After the short family meeting concluded with a unanimous vote to break the engagement, Winston immediately called his brother. He was sure Vincent would agree, since he had just brought it up himself. But when the call connected and Winston stated his intentions, Vincent went silent. He replied with 3 words. "Fuck, you idiot. What are you yelling at me for?" Winston was completely baffled. His brother had just mentioned breaking the engagement himself. "Had enough of the good life. Have you, Win? Weren't you the one who just said we should break it off? I was putting on a show for those 2 from Boston, you moron." "What people from Boston?" "Your son-in-law's cousin and his fiancée." "Oh, you mean Ethan and Willow?" "Wait, Willow's right here next to me. Is your brain a garbage heap? And yours is a septic tank." On the other end of the line, Vincent was gasping for air. He finally managed to calm down enough to speak. "My septic tank is about to overflow from you." "Wait, you still remember that? Get to the point. What people from Boston?" "You've met him before. Julian Miller, and a girl he brought with him from Boston, looking to arrange a marriage with Leo." "Oh," Winston said, the light dawning. A minute later, his expression changed. "So, you were telling Willow to break the engagement to make way for this other girl? You son of a bitch, Vincent. I told you it was an act." "An act?" Vincent's septic tank was practically bubbling over. "They're here to exploit a loophole. Leo has no interest in inheriting the family, So this girl plans to become his wife and get a position in the Miller family's upper echelons. In 10 or 20 years, she goes from being the young mistress to the old matriarch. And she'll have all the power she wants, won't she? Oh, I get it. You're not a septic tank. You're a traitor. I am not a traitor. Vincent's head was about to explode. Is your brain made of dog food? It's obvious Rick and Frank don't know how to deal with Julian. He's still the old patriarch's blood, after all. If they treat him coldly and use force, it'll make others uneasy. If they keep him around, they'll have to watch out for his ambitions. So this is the kind of dirty work we, the outside allies, have to do. Understand? Vincent finished his tirade, panting for breath. He was getting old, and his lung capacity wasn't what it used to be. But his brother's next words nearly made him cough up blood. Who's your little brother? I'm Uncle Frank's one and only loyal little brother. You're a bootlicker at best. Winston Shum, I'm coming to your house right now. Get downstairs. No backup. Just you and me one-on-one. Haha, not listening, la la la. I'm telling you, breaking the engagement now is playing right into their hands. Rick and Frank aren't the patriarch's biological sons in the end. They got rid of the only one who was. So they can't easily refuse a request from Julian, the only biological grandson, especially with so many of the old guard still alive. I don't understand, don't talk to me about it. Winston abruptly hung up. Standing beside him, Willow couldn't take it anymore. Her dad was acting like a complete moron. Her uncle had explained everything so clearly, and he was still going duh. Then she watched as her dad immediately dialed Frank Miller's number. Uncle Frank, listen, I've discovered something huge. That Julian kid is dangerously ambitious. Willow stared blankly as her father repeated, word for word, everything her uncle had just said. He just added a little signature at the end. Uncle Frank, this is what I've personally observed and analyzed. What do you think? Winston didn't sound like he didn't understand at all. Willow was stunned. She looked at her mother for help. Mom, why is Dad's intelligence so variable? Because different roles require different survival strategies, Elaine said, putting an arm around Willow's shoulder. Your father can't appear too clever in front of your uncle. One mountain can't have two tigers. If they were both smart, they couldn't get along. But does Dad have to be such a jerk about it? It's a kind of unspoken agreement among adults. Who would you rather talk to? Someone who's silent and keeps to himself? Or someone who's a fool but banters with you? Silence implies they're hiding something. Banter actually encourages communication. This way, your uncle will still tell your father things. Then why does he have to act smart in front of Mr. Miller? Willow asked, still confused, before answering her own question. To take the credit, right? No, Elaine said. It's because when they were young, your Uncle Frank used to say your dad's brain was a garbage heap. So your father has spent his entire life trying to prove to him that he has a brain. And the result? In response to her daughter's question, Elaine just pointed at Winston, telling her to listen closely to the phone call. Win, not bad. Aha. Thanks, Uncle Frank. It was your brother's idea, wasn't it? Uncle Frank, who do you take me for? Can't I be the smart one for once? With that garbage heap you call a brain? Not a chance in this lifetime. And my brother's septic tank of a brain is any better? Back in the day, when I called his brain a septic tank, it was a compliment. It meant his brain was useful. A septic tank can still bubble up with a few ideas now and then. Without Vincent, how could I have fought that black-hearted Rick? So, was garbage heap also a compliment? A garbage heap does have a deeper meaning, Frank said. Uncle Frank, why didn't you tell me back then? Winston waved his fist, looking like a middle-aged man rediscovering his youthful passion. It wouldn't have been appropriate back then. You were all so young. Well, tell me now. Let me ask you, what's in a garbage heap? Garbage, duh. Wrong. Useless trash. Problems have a way of landing on your head when you least expect it. Like when a sweet couple is taking a photo on campus, and in the corner of the frame, some guy is obliviously stuffing his face with flamin' hot Cheetos. That guy has no idea he's about to become a permanent, much maligned part of their romantic memory. Just like that, a problem had landed squarely on Willow Shung's head. Should she break the engagement or not? If she didn't, it was a dead end. She wouldn't even have the chance to bravely express her feelings. All she wanted was to tell him how she felt, just once on a level playing field. Willow, breaking the engagement now, is just handing Clem an opportunity. The situation even stumped Elaine. Honestly, she didn't know what to do either. Looking at her daughter, who had finally worked up the courage to speak her heart, she stroked Willow's hair in silence. Life rarely goes as planned. So what was the right thing to do? At the Miller family estate, by the man-made lake, Edward Miller was arranging his shells, holding one up to admire it. When the moon, the shell, and the human eye formed a four-point line, the shell was exceptionally beautiful, Wait for points. Because between the moon and the shell, another scruffy head had appeared. Rick, you playing with these damn conches again. They're shells. Pick a tasty one and cook it for me. Get lost. Spit out what you have to say. I'll figure out what Julian is up to. Frank Miller rolled up his pants and stuck his feet in the lake, hissing at the cold. But he kept them in. You dare, Frank. You're psycho. Rick sat on his stool, exasperated. Tell me what you've figured out. Julian is after Leo. The family in Boston sent a girl to arrange a marriage. Clem Sue. They went to Vincent Shung, trying to persuade him to break off the engagement. And? What's your conclusion? Clem is planning to muscle her way in because she knows Leo has no attachment to the family. You came up with this. Rick looked at his brother suspiciously. Of course. Winston just reported the facts. The analysis is all mine. Frank shamelessly stole his subordinate's credit, flaunting his supposed intelligence in front of his older brother. To put it nicely, the brothers had similar habits. To put it bluntly, this was just the unspoken rule of the world. If you're the boss, whose credit do you steal if not your underlings? Only a pig-headed fool like you could come up with such a conclusion. Rick, I swore I'd stop fighting, so don't push me. Use your brain. If their motive was that simple, why would we just agree? Because I don't agree. My daughters-in-law are all stunning. This Clem isn't. Your son is living more freely than anyone. It's just a title. What's not to agree to? Rick slapped the table. An outsider wanting a say in the Miller family is a joke. Do you think we're dead? Then what's she after? Someone is finally making a move on us, laying their pieces on the board before the chaos officially begins. Rick closed his tired eyes, dozing off on his stool. The Miller family is about to enter a period of turmoil. He continued, because of our bloodline, we're naturally in a different faction from the rest of the Millers. If Leo takes over quickly, the turmoil won't start. No one will get any funny ideas. They'll just accept it. But as long as the succession isn't settled, the turmoil will continue. Forget outsiders like Clem. Even insiders will start making moves. And you can't be on guard forever. My son hasn't even finished college yet. Let him rest for a few years. A few more years of rest, and he'll be out of the country. He'll come back after a few years of fun. Didn't Ethan do the same when he studied abroad? Will your son really come back? Rick disagreed. Leo is already sick of this life. Once he gets a taste of freedom, that kid will absolutely buy a small island and become a hermit. I don't care if he becomes a hermit, or a birdman, or a tran. Well, I don't support that last one. Frank's stance was firm. He would protect his son's freedom no matter what. Rick sighed and waved his hand. Let's put that aside. About Clem. This is tricky. The pressure from the other family elders is immense. Which son of a bitch is pressuring us? Julian is the only biological grandson. After all, as long as his requests are reasonable on the surface, we can't easily refuse. He's not asking for a position in the company. He's just proposing a marriage alliance, representing the will of the Boston family. How can we say no? The Shungs won't break the engagement. I hope so. Otherwise, we won't even have a reason to refuse. Then we'll really be in a tough spot. Frank nodded grimly. Then his figure disappeared from view. The lakeside was quiet again, with only Rick on his stool. He watched the fish occasionally leaping from the water, watched the ripples spread across the surface. For decades, a sleepless old man had done the exact same thing. After I grew up, I became you. Rick had visited Ethan yesterday. The kid hadn't lost any weight in prison. In fact, he gained some. He didn't question his powerful father about why he hadn't been bailed out. He just calmly shared some stories from inside, and, before the visit ended, left his father with a single sentence. Dad, please tell Leo something for me. I was wrong. I owe him an apology. Even Rick had nearly lost his composure in that moment. But he held it together. Sending Ethan to prison was, in effect, cutting off his own line of succession. From the outside, Frank now looked like the biggest contender because he had a son, and that was what Rick wanted. Frank was suited to be the face. He was suited to be the muscle. Ethan's sacrifice was necessary. To everyone else, he had to be the weaker one. Rick held the shell in his hand, aiming it towards the thatched roof hut in the distance. 20 years ago, his father had told him that these shells would only ever be display pieces, and refused to let him pursue the ocean he had dreamed of for 2 decades. The words marine biologist were laughable compared to ruler of a vast family empire. The father-son relationships in the Miller family were interesting. In each son's eyes, the father was a different man. To Edward, the father was impersonal. And Edward, in the 20 years since his fall from grace, hadn't even seen his own son, Julian. He was impersonal too. To the other Edward, the father was controlling and strict. And under that same influence, Ethan had grown up under high pressure, twisting into something unrecognizable. To Rick, The father was a source of neglect and guilt. And he, Rick, had neglected his own son for 20 years. And these three grandsons had walked different paths. Julian felt no emotion for his father. He accepted his impersonality. Ethan collapsed under the pressure, spiraling in his father's control. Only Leo chose outright rebellion, reacting to his father's irresponsibility with an equal and opposite extreme. But he had developed a severe psychological illness. Acceptance and confrontation. The eternal core of the Miller fathers and sons. The same dilemma that straddles every father and son in this land. When the will of an authoritative patriarch collides with a soul growing into its own independence, should one accept or confront? Rick didn't know the answer himself. He only knew that Leo had chosen a completely different path. From the moment they were branded with the name Miller, some things became a curse. What was the point of all their sacrifice for this massive family? Was it really worth the patriarch's fallout with his son, Edward's feigned madness, Rick's abandoned dreams, Frank's 20 years as a stray dog? No one ever stopped to ask if it was worth it. They had grown up in this environment. They were fish-born in this lake. They didn't think about worth. They just persevered. Only Leo, from beginning to end, believed that none of it was worth it. But Leo, reality doesn't care what you think. Rick stood up and waved at a figure that had just arrived. A woman with a plain face but a powerful aura walked over and greeted him politely. "Second uncle, good evening. If we're going by Julian's relation, you should call me second great uncle. The fact that you sought me out proves we can use a different way of determining seniority." Clem stood beside him with a smile. Sharp, raised in the big city, Rick skipped a stone across the water, then spoke from his stool. "The Shungs will break the engagement. When they do, you'll marry in. What if Leo doesn't agree? I know him too well. He won't be able to leave with a clear conscience until an unexpected problem like this is resolved." Rick looked up, a faint smile on his lips. "To keep him from leaving, I have to give him something to do. You truly put the family first, second uncle." Rick didn't answer, his face impassive as he watched the shimmering surface of the lake. The distant mountains, the man-made lake, the bamboo hut, the little stool. Only the aging figure on the stool had become a middle-aged man. "After I grew up, I became you. P.S. Cat." Today was a joyous occasion. Even Silas, his face etched with wrinkles, was beaming. Who wasn't happy on payday? Tonight was also the last night of business for the Cypress Lounge this year. The Starlight Gala had drawn a large crowd. The lanterns cast a warm, hazy glow over the entire courtyard. Silk ribbons strung between the weeping crabapple trees formed a canopy, like a magical barrier separating the lounge from the outside world. Everyone was bustling around. The entire lounge was operating at high speed. Bartenders, kitchen staff, hosts. Even Jenny at the front desk had changed into a festive red dress, looking like a little lucky cat herself. Only Leo wasn't busy. In fact, he was bored out of his mind. He had no clients. Who was he supposed to entertain? He never would have imagined that even Sebastian Seb Cole would have a client to host. "Where did a freak like you find a client?" "Met her during my shift yesterday. She likes my type," Seb said, puffing out his chest. "You didn't criticize her car this time. She doesn't have one. Or her jewelry for not being designer. She doesn't have any jewelry either." "Huh." Leo scratched his head. "Who comes to this place without at least one designer item?" "She said her family isn't well off. She came here through a friend's recommendation. If she doesn't get a membership at the lounge, she can't fit into her friend group. How can she afford a membership if she has no money? I paid for it." "What?" Leo stared at Seb in disbelief, trying to comprehend what was going on in the idiot's head. "We're the ones who were supposed to be taking their money, not the other way around. What do you know? I just lent her the money to help her out. When is she paying you back?" "When she has the money. She said if I lend her 10,000, she'll pay me back 12. Leo was speechless, getting scammed by a woman while working as a host at the Cypress Lounge. That was a new level of pathetic. "Seb, my friend," Leo said sagely, "when wealth and intelligence are mismatched, wealth has a way of flowing back into the market in other forms. It's only 10,000. That's not even pocket money. You son of a bitch." That one really hit Leo where it hurt. "Leo, don't tell me you don't have a client." "Nope." "Then you can't leave. You have to keep your word." Seb clenched his fists. "Stay here and marry Isabella. The moment you two get married, a huge weight will be lifted from my heart. Us getting married is impossible. Besides, whether I leave or not isn't going to be decided by one gala." "Yeah, right," Seb said, slinging an arm around Leo's shoulder as they stood by a tree, whispering. "Anyone with eyes can see you can't bear to leave Isabella. And how did you figure that out?" "The Starlight Gala, duh. The only client who would spend money on you is Isabella. If she supports you leaving, you can leave. If she doesn't, you can't. She definitely doesn't want me to go. Exactly. When you toss a coin, you already know in your heart what you want the answer to be. Your answer is that you can't let her go. If you really wanted to leave, do you think one stupid gala could stop you? Leo wanted to argue, but he said nothing. Being seen through by an idiot was a truly miserable feeling. I'm smart, right? Seb's expression was profoundly wise, a look that seemed standard issue for clueless rich boys. Sigh. The ending is already written, Leo said, shaking his head and dismissing the thought of the gala. He sat down in front of the stage to watch the performance, a classic play called The Demon of the Hazy Forest. 5 minutes later, someone sat down to his left. Hello, have time to host me? Clem asked softly, taking a seat. Nope, watching the show. Don't you want me to spend money to support you? Don't need it. Don't want to travel the world anymore. Nope, it seems the coin in your heart has already landed. Clem thought for a moment. In your mind, what's the difference between me and Isabella? When Isabella shows her legs, I can't look away. And besides looks, can't look past them. Clem laughed softly at that. She clearly wasn't the type to get angry over such things. Isabella and I have similar family backgrounds, similar ways of doing things, and even similar personalities in many ways. Leo nodded. He couldn't argue with that. The two women did have a very similar aura, especially that bone-deep confidence. What are you really asking? You're willing to stay for Isabella. So I want to know what the real difference is between us. She can grant my wishes. So can I, Clem said, and I can grant you even more. For example, complete and total freedom. The Starlight Gala was in full swing. Glasses clinked and people milled about, a current of festive energy flowing through the Cypress Lounge. In the midst of all the cheer, only Leo and Clem were locked in a quiet, intense exchange. And you think this behavior of yours is some grand gesture of generosity? Leo asked. Isn't it? Then I can only say you don't understand men at all. Leo shook his head, his voice low. Men are contradictory creatures. We want a woman's attention. We want to know she cares, but we also need her to give us a little freedom. See? Men are impossible to understand. No, it's very easy to understand, Leo said, turning his head to speak quietly into her ear, because love is the prerequisite for all of it. Attention and concern are part of love. It's only when a man is sure that love is stable that he can turn his attention to other things. That's when he wants freedom. Same logic. I'm just giving you the result directly. You still don't get it. Generosity without love is what's truly impossible to understand. Leo gave a silent, humorless laugh. Which makes you impossible to understand. You keep talking about being generous. You don't actually think your generosity is some priceless commodity, do you? It's a form of confidence. You wouldn't get it. Her privileged upbringing meant she rarely saw anyone as an equal. The only one she'd sized up as a worthy opponent was Isabella Vance. But now, even Isabella seemed to lack true confidence. How could a confident person be tormented by something as trivial as love? To have your emotions dictated by a man was the most foolish thing imaginable. The thought of Isabella getting so worried you'll leave that she starts throwing money at everyone else just makes me want to laugh. She's throwing money at other people. I called to confirm. She's coming. An uneasy feeling washed over Leo. His last parting with Isabella hadn't exactly been pleasant. For someone as supremely confident, bordering on arrogant, as her, that had to have been a brutal blow. In a state like that, there was no telling what that defiant woman might do. Shit, I can't let her waste her money. Isn't spending money now just throwing it away? He muttered. Where is she? Probably exchanging her cash for stars. Of course. The donations at the Starlight Gala weren't announced as dollar amounts. Too tacky. Guests purchased stars to represent their contributions. Tonight, everything else was on the house. All the food and drinks were provided by the lounge. The gala was meant to be a thank you to their patrons for a year of support. A year-end party with a fireworks show. But the clientele was made up of the city's elite. They couldn't just show up and not spend money. So, the stars had become the sole currency of the night. $100 a star. Leo shot up and scanned the crowded garden. Clem remained seated, murmuring beside him. It doesn't matter if she doesn't show. I prepared plenty of stars myself. I'll just gift them to Julian. You definitely won't be getting first place tonight. The spectacle of the fireworks was breathtaking. When the lounge's custom-made pyrotechnics exploded into the shape of a massive iris, the entire night sky was bathed in gold. Every eye was drawn upward. Leo searched everywhere, but found no trace of Isabella. Even the staff at the Star Exchange booth said no woman with blue eyes had been by. Only then did Leo manage to suppress the strange, nagging thought in his mind. She wouldn't, right? And now, Silas's voice boomed from the stage. Let's reveal this year's shining star of the Cypress Lounge. At his direction, the 17 hosts began to line up on the stage. Leo stood at the very end, his eyes still scanning the back garden for any sign of Isabella. Nothing. As always, to avoid crushing anyone's confidence, we'll only be announcing the top 3, Silas said with a mischievous grin, his eyes landing on Leo. Last year, Leo shattered the gala's record, and the rest of these kids were moping for weeks. Leo forced a pained smile and gave a little wave to the crowd. He shot Silas a look that screamed, "Get on with it. Stop torturing me." In third place, Sebastian Cole. The dedication reads, "To Seb, eat well, drink well, and be happy every day." Seb, shameless as ever, beamed at the audience. It took a genius to figure out he'd bought his own stars and written his own dedication. A rich kid's way of buying himself a little happiness. But the ranking made Leo's stomach drop. A bad feeling began to creep in. That strange, nagging thought was about to become reality. In second place, Julian Miller. Julian froze, looking at Clem in the audience with a bewildered expression. Your dedication reads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A purely perfunctory message. What else would Clem write for him? And in first place, Silas paused, milking the moment like a seasoned game show host. Congratulations to the luckiest bastard in this lounge, our 2-time reigning sales champion. Even before Silas finished the sentence, Leo was already stepping off the stage, moving against the tide of envious gazes. And how could they not be envious? Everyone here knew him, from the busboys to the high rollers who dropped fortunes. They had all heard his name. Leo plunged into the crowd, desperately searching for a face he knew he wouldn't find. On stage, Silas calmly drew everyone's attention back. A smile played on his lips as he announced softly, "This year's Shining Star Award goes to Leo." Honestly, I didn't want to see this guy dominate again, but what can you do? The client gave too much. So, let's see what Leo's dedication is. May all your dreams come true. Just that? A pretty ordinary message. Looks like it was written on the fly. But still, our deepest thanks to the lady who, though not present tonight, purchased 300,000 stars to buy Leo his one simple wish. Thank you. The same moment Silas announced Leo as the winner, a woman in sunglasses sat in a car parked in the alley outside the lounge, silently watching the last traces of fireworks fade from the sky. She saw Leo's name light up her phone screen. She ignored it, but she answered the next call. A moment later, another woman slid into the passenger seat. "Well, Ms. Vance, that was quite a grand gesture," Clem said. 300,000 stars is $3 million. All to buy one man's heart. You don't understand. He wanted to go, so I helped him go, so it was an act of spite. Clem's estimation of Isabella sank even lower. What could such a childish tantrum possibly achieve? You don't want him to leave, yet you throw a fit like this. It was pointless, a waste of perfectly good money. Hesitation is a mistake born of immaturity. And you never hesitate. I never hesitate, Clem said, her face a mask of confidence. Better than being ruled by your emotions over a man, Clem retorted stubbornly. Isabella didn't even look at her. From the moment I met you, she said softly, your words have been laced with comparison. Are you trying to compare yourself to me? Life is competition. Are you telling me you don't have the instinct to compare yourself to me? Clem turned, her expression one of utter disbelief, only to meet Isabella's genuinely puzzled gaze. You're saying I should compare myself to you? Yes. Are you still asleep? Clem's breath hitched. She whipped her head back, staring at Isabella in disbelief. Our family backgrounds are similar. Our ways of handling things are similar. So, what exactly are you comparing? When faced with the same man, you are constantly swayed by your emotions. I can remain calm. Is the calmness of a coward still considered calm? Isabella tilted her head, gazing out the window, her long eyes filled with exhaustion. Why do you keep harping on about being ruled by emotions? Is it because before you left D.C., you looked into Leo's file? You learned his greatest strength, and so you've been constantly warning yourself not to let him get to you. So what if I did? I can handle it. Because you're afraid. Avoiding a direct confrontation is true calmness. If you choose to avoid the confrontation, then am I wrong to call you a coward? Isabella asked, draping her hand over the back of the seat and leaning back languidly. And what right does a coward have to compare herself to me? Is the price of courage losing the game? How do you define winning? Is the person who achieves their goal the winner? What else would it be? I used to think that way too. A rare smile touched Isabella's lips. She closed her eyes, which were beginning to glisten, and fell silent. In a moment of parting like this, the only stories you can recall are the beautiful, tragic ones. She was a person who always wanted to win, she said. From childhood on, winning required sacrifices, time, money, energy. Her entire life was structured around victory. What did that sound like? A robot programmed with a single directive: win. Select a target, formulate a plan, execute. If the plan fails, learn and repeat. That was the first half of her life. But unfortunately, she wasn't a robot. Flesh and blood can't be unfeeling. So the price she paid was exhaustion. An endless, soul-crushing exhaustion. And whenever she felt that tired, a certain someone would always suggest she go sit on a park bench and soak up some sun. He'd have a goofy grin on his face. That blurry figure would tell her, "It's okay. People who really want to win can never smile. Then what's the point of me winning? So you can sit on this park bench for a while. All this hard work just to sit on a park bench. Why not? It's comfortable. You can pretend the bench is a seat on a yacht. Close your eyes and feel the endless ocean. Or pretend it's a helicopter and you're looking down at fields and forests. Why don't I just go sit on a real yacht or a helicopter? Let's go right now. Or are we just going to sit on the bench? People who lose all the time, like me, need to fantasize. People who win, like you, don't have to. So the point of winning is, right? You win so that nothing has to be just a fantasy anymore." The blurry figure gave a thumbs up, looking at her from across a vast distance. The distortion of time and space makes you dizzy. And just like that, the tears in her blue eyes spilled over. The owner of those blue eyes slumped over the steering wheel, her shoulders shaking. "The point of winning," she whispered, "is to no longer need to fantasize. So your method is wrong, and mine is right. I can make it so nothing has to be a fantasy," Clem said, coolly offering a tissue in a gesture of silent mockery. "My way is the only correct path to becoming Leo's wife." "You still don't understand what I said." "How do I not understand?" "The fantasy I'm talking about is his fantasy," Isabella said, her voice clear. "Traveling the world, going on adventures. None of that should be just a fantasy for him. I want him to win." Clem's expression turned to one of sheer disbelief. She couldn't process a logic that didn't exist in her programming. "You're truly, I don't know what you're even trying to compare. You're just a hopelessly foolish woman." Isabella put her sunglasses back on, hiding her swollen, red eyes. "You think you're so clever, don't you? Making an offer that, on the surface, seems perfectly tailored to Leo's situation. He has so many women around him, and that makes you confident you could defeat them all." Isabella looked toward the entrance of the lounge, where a figure was frantically scanning the crowd. She started the car. "You don't even have the right to participate in this game. But you're about to lose. I can afford to win, and I can afford to lose," Isabella said as the car pulled away. "And those 300,000 stars. That was my farewell gift to him." Leo saw Isabella's Panamera from a distance. He broke into a dead sprint, breathless. But how could a person outrun a car? Just as the car was about to pull away, Leo whipped out his phone. "Walter, don't let that red car leave." Walter was the parking lot attendant. In this town, it was good to know people. Leo watched as Isabella rolled down her window and said a few words to Walter. The old man took 2 confused steps back. And then Isabella simply smashed through the parking arm and drove off. Leo ran up to Walter, incredulous. "Walter, Leo, the girl just paid a $2,000 parking fee. I was about to go get my phone to call you when she just floored it." "Did she hit you?" "Just got a little dust on my sleeve." Walter, a retired veteran, straightened his collar and rolled his neck. "You need to stop letting your grandson use your phone so much," Leo said, scratching his head. "Old guys like you should be checking out old ladies, not messing with this young people drama." He glanced at the splintered remains of the parking gate. This was not how he'd expected things to go. But he knew someone who knew exactly what happened. "You old bastard, you set me up. Well, if it isn't the genius host. Give me the 3 million. Now, I'm like a bank vault, my boy. One-way deposits only. Then I'll just have to pry it out of you." While the rest of the garden buzzed about the 300,000 star donation, a young man and an old man were practically wrestling in a corner over the money. "Don't you get it, kid? I was giving you an opportunity." "What opportunity? If you don't resolve things with Isabella now, you'll never resolve them." "It was already resolved. We were parting on good terms. And now, can you still part on good terms? This is all your fault. Did she call you privately to transfer the money for stars? You think I wanted to?" Silas straightened his rumpled collar and began to recount the story from an hour ago. The moment Silas answered the phone, he had a pretty good idea of what Isabella was about to do. Is it for Julian or Seb? As a staunch supporter of Skylar, Silas assumed Isabella was calling to sabotage Leo's chances of winning. "It's for Leo." The words completely stumped Silas. His brain couldn't process it. Why for Leo? Ms. Vance, are you sure? You didn't misspeak, did you? It's for Leo. And the dedication. Do I have to write one? You've already spent the money. Seems like a waste not to say something. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then Isabella spoke 4 words and hung up. She said, "May all your dreams come true." Those 4 words completely silenced the staunch Skylar supporter. Leo leaned against a tree by himself, watching the dancing and revelry before him. The dance portion of the night had begun, signaling that the gala was drawing to a close. Perhaps this was the scene that formed the lifeblood of a city. Some people raising their glasses, some dancing, some counting their money, and some staring at a crumbling ceiling, unable to sleep. The human heart was a fickle thing, but Leo still felt that Isabella's act wasn't a gesture of reconciliation. It was a farewell. That was who she had always been. Clem's claim that she was more confident than Isabella was laughable. Isabella's confidence came from the fact that she almost never second-guessed herself. She acknowledged her flaws, but she refused to change them. She would simply present her strengths and weaknesses to you, unvarnished. Take it or leave it. That was the pride of a winner. Just like now, Leo figured Isabella couldn't have driven far. He was sure that if she looked up, she would see the final volley of fireworks. As the brilliant colors exploded across the sky, Leo couldn't help but think of her nickname, the Blue-Eyed Goddess. It was almost funny. Isabella, the one everyone thought would be the weak link, the one who would hold him back, had just dropped a fortune. And would that fortune guarantee that Leo would leave? Not necessarily, but she did it anyway, because she knew Leo was hesitating for her sake. So she chose this way to say a final definitive goodbye, to tell him, go do what you want to do. We're not teenagers who can't let go. I wish you all the best. Isabella arrived at the Afterglow Lounge alone. To Peyton's surprise, she ordered a table full of drinks. What's wrong with you? Peyton asked. Just went to grant a wish. Playing fairy godmother? I didn't know you were so charitable. I will always grant his wishes, Isabella said. She didn't think of herself as some blue-eyed goddess. Submerged in an ocean of alcohol, she leaned against the wall, silent. Everyone thought she was arrogant and domineering. Even Leo. A bitter smile touched her lips as she remembered how he used to treat her with such cautious trepidation. The neon lights refracted through the bottle and into her blue eyes. She was drowning in love and desire, unable to escape. Leo, when have I ever stood in the way of your dreams? When his contract was up, she never once thought of using any complicated schemes to stop him. Her only weapon was seduction. When that failed, she let him go. The wind was so strong that day. She'd leaned against the doorframe, watching his retreating figure, feeling like she was about to be blown away. And today, she knew he was worried about her, so she didn't even show her face. She chose a very adult way to say her final goodbye. You see, Leo, I know I have a lot of problems. I admit it, but I can't change. But I will always grant your wishes. Even if every wish you make is a wish to leave me. Leo, I cry easily. I hate crying, so I don't want you to cry. I fight with everything I have to keep the things I hate away from you. So, Leo, what is love? There's a phenomenon called déjà vu, describing a feeling of having already seen. It's the sense that one has experienced a new situation before. The term is often used in stories involving time and space. Déjà vu comes from French, and its explanation is naturally steeped in French culture. But in this part of the world, a similar phenomenon exists, also involving concepts of time and space. Reincarnation. In traditional mythology, people are caught in an endless cycle of rebirth. The circumstances of each life are different, which has given rise to countless poignant love stories. 1,000 glances in a past life in exchange for a brief encounter in this one. Of course, these are just myths, expressions of a people's longing for a better life. Fun to think about, nothing more. But at this moment, Isabella wasn't so sure. As the alcohol burned in her stomach, the feeling in her head was far from pleasant. She felt her body floating in the air, flying freely. But human anatomy makes flight impossible. In reality, she was draped over someone's back, her bare feet dangling, her high heels clutched in the person's hand. Isabella was certain she had no memory of being carried home by a man in the middle of the night. She struggled, trying to break free, but the man carrying her was unmovable. "Put me down," she said. "Stop messing around," he replied. Déjà vu. It hit her in that instant. Maybe it was the familiar way he spoke, the tone, or the low timbre of his voice. Someone has carried me before. But back then, I didn't think of him as a man. I barely even thought of him as a person. Memories of a time when she didn't treat a person like a person flooded her mind. There are two sides to every coin. A person who wins in the boardroom is bound to lose somewhere else. Isabella's personal life used to be a complete disaster. Even after she'd just taken on a new boy toy, she hadn't yet gotten used to how to act around him. Closeness between people isn't forged by just sitting face to face. It happens in moments of serendipity. That day, she'd met up with Anna and her friend for drinks. Though she rarely found joy in drinking, the only pleasure came from the state of being drunk. Adults need moments of blurriness to escape the weight of their own thoughts. She stumbled out of the bar, about to hail a designated driver, when a guy without the official vest rushed to the front of the line. No vest meant unprofessional. Why not pick someone more professional? Boss, it's me. You. Who are you? I'm your humble servant. Uncle Jim? What are you doing here for Boston? Damn, your family really does have servants. The man muttered, quickly reaching out to support her. She slapped his hand away. Who are you? She demanded. Boss, you just put me on retainer yesterday. You don't know who I am already. You. What are you doing here? I called you this afternoon to ask if you were coming home for dinner. You said you were coming to this bar. What did you get here? An hour ago. The man rubbed his hands together nervously. Boss, look, you spent so much money hiring me. Why would you spend extra on a designated driver? Just call me. Do you have a license? Yes. Isabella didn't say another word, managing to get into the passenger's seat, where she sat in silence. The man wisely kept quiet, until a wave of nausea rolled through her stomach. She suppressed it, turning to look out the window, trying to hide the pain on her face. But the man was an ass. A smart ass. He said, Boss, it's $200 if you throw up in the car. Do you think you're funny? Sorry, boss. Pull over. I need some air. Okay. Isabella got out, took a deep breath of fresh air, and leaned against a lamppost, feeling worse by the second. Boss, do you get carsick often? Yes. No wonder a big boss like you doesn't have a personal driver and always drives yourself. Will you die if you don't talk? Not talking, not talking. The man instinctively started to raise his hand to pat her back, then quickly retracted it. Because she threw up. The violent retching was painful, but Isabella's first instinct was to stifle the sound. She didn't want anyone to see her in such a pathetic state. It's better to get it all out. Just let it rip. Cough, cough. I told you not to talk anymore. Boss, you're just too proud. You can't be like this. Don't you find your own words disgusting? You want to hear something even more disgusting? The man jumped out and puffed out his chest. Your knight in shining armor has arrived. Get lost. Right away, boss. The man let out his trademark goofy laugh. Boss, how about we try a different mode of transportation? What mode doesn't cause car sickness? The human taxi. And so, the man piggybacked her, carrying her high heels in his hand. Dizzy, she could only muster a final, feeble struggle. It was useless. He said, Boss, drinking is bad for you. You think I don't know that? Who else is going to tell you? The bartender, talk is cheap. Was concern really worth anything? Isabella was no longer a little girl. Concern that cost nothing meant nothing to her. If I were 20, I'd tell you that you're not allowed to drink and that I'll solve all your problems. But I'm only 18. I don't have that kind of power yet. And in 2 years you will. A psychic told me my luck changes when I'm 20. I even haggled her down to $10 for a good luck charm. Boss, you're worldly. You think psychics are accurate. Better to rely on yourself than on fate. That's what I think, too. I'll definitely be amazing when I'm 20. I don't believe you. Then let's make a bet. When I become amazing, I'll tell you not to drink, and you won't be allowed to drink. Who plays childish games like that with you? Outside the Afterglow lounge, Leo walked on, carrying Isabella on his back without a word. Isabella, he said, are you trying to ascend to heaven with all this drinking? Isabella was too weak to speak as an uncontrollable wave of nausea surged through her. $200 if you throw up in the car. Where's the car? Isabella managed to force out, her voice strained. The human taxi isn't a car. Leo grinned, then walked to the side of the road and gently set her down, patting her back. It's better to get it all out. Let rip. Leo, how old are you? 20. Then do you have anything to say to me? Leo looked at her, surprised, and gently shook his head. No, he said. Silence was the road home that night. Drunk, Isabella's eyes were filled with inexplicable images. She asked Leo, did we meet in a past life? What nonsense are you talking? Then why do I feel like I've seen you so many times? Because you have seen me many times. And does it always end like this for us? If reincarnation is real, then our ending in every lifetime is probably pretty bad. Why? When you put two people with incompatible personalities together, one with overwhelming possessiveness, the other a philandering scumbag, it'd be a miracle if you got a happy ending. Isabella didn't answer. She hadn't really heard what he said. The scene before her eyes shifted again. Leo, hurry up. Isabella had a flat tire. She called Leo. Through his excellent work ethic, Leo had become her de facto personal assistant, though his handsome features often led people to mistake him for a simple boy toy, overlooking his professionalism. Leo arrived on a shared bike, panting, and immediately started changing the tire. What took you so long? My advisor pulled me aside for a lecture, told me to prepare for my makeup exams. If you can't get here in 10 minutes, you shouldn't promise me 10 minutes. I know, boss. Just put on a spare and get back to class. Boss, I have to go home first. My mom hasn't been feeling well these past few days. I need to go cook for her. Then what am I supposed to eat tonight? I'll cook at home, but won't eat. I'll come right back as soon as I'm done. I want soup tonight. Remember to go to the market and buy fish. Okay. And are you ever going to learn how to fix the plumbing upstairs? I'm trying to learn, boss. Isabella didn't respond, just nodded silently, standing on the roadside watching Leo change the tire in the sweltering heat. She watched the passers-by, who all kept glancing over. A car broken down on the side of the road always draws attention. It seems someone recognized Leo, a group of college kids. Leo, man, we're going to city center for dinner. You coming? No, I can't. Working. For some reason, Isabella remembered something. Leo, are you really a student? What else would a 19-year-old be? You don't act like a student. A comment like that could ruin my career prospects. Don't you know being a college student is a major bonus for a boy toy? Isabella was suddenly intrigued. Do you dare tell your classmates you're a kept man? Perhaps seeing the hesitation in his eyes, she added a condition. It's fine if you don't. But if you do, I'll grant you one wish. Don't need a wish. He wiped his hands on his pants. Just had to clean up a bit. Can't look like a well-fed boy toy with tire grease all over me. He walked over to his friends, completely composed. Sorry, guys. I'd love to grab a steak, but I'm on the clock. Gotta do what the gold card says. Isabella couldn't remember her classmates' reactions anymore. She only knew the rumors. The rumor that Leo was a rent boy spread like wildfire across campus. She asked Leo, see, you don't act like a student. A real student would never be able to say something like that so openly. Oh, I get what you mean. Leo finished with the tire, grunting as he stood up. Nobody would feel good saying something like that. But if saying it makes the boss happy, then why not say it? You have no shame, because I'm not like them. Leo squatted by the road, looking at his filthy hands, and leaned against a trash can without a care for his image. If I were as carefree as them, I obviously wouldn't be on this path. There are many ways to make money. I admit it, but this is all I'm capable of. I tried other ways. I almost died. Leo smiled as he recounted his past, giving a distant wave to his departing friends. I owe you a wish. I wish for you to owe me another wish. And next time, you'll just owe me again. Then the wish will never be fulfilled. I'm already very grateful to you, boss. Leo pursed his lips and pulled a lollipop from his pocket, popping it into his mouth, savoring a moment of peace. You have no idea what $100,000 means to a normal person. Is your only wish for money? Of course. Do you have any other wishes? That's all in the future. Who can say? I'll grant you any wish you want. I want to pluck the sun from the sky and hold it in my arms. Leo smiled. I'm kidding. My wish is to work for you for the rest of my life. Really? Is there any truth in an employee's flattery? I'm taking it seriously. Isabella tilted her head to the side, squatting down beside him in the shade of a tree. She said, you work for me for life, and I'll grant your wishes for life. Boss, I was joking. Who would be a boy toy for their whole life? I'm serious. Don't, boss. If you don't want to, you can get lost right now. I'll do it. Leo's eyes darted around, and he jumped to his feet with a goofy grin, snapping to attention. Serving you, boss, is my lifelong duty. You're sick. Isabella smoothed down her skirt, about to sit on the curb. Leo thoughtfully found a piece of cardboard, which he'd gotten from an old man collecting recycling. The spare was on, but the car didn't move. The two of them sat silently on the side of the road. Leo chattered away, pointing out which car was expensive, which had a good engine, which looked like it belonged to a mistress. Isabella listened quietly. When he said something out of line, she would turn and scold him. Life is made of two parts, surviving and living. If surviving is the survive part, then what is living? Isabella didn't know. All she knew was that the river of traffic before her felt like a rustic play. There was an orchestra, actors moving about, some on the verge of collapse. The play would end. The scene before her was fleeting, but the person beside her had said he would work for her forever, and she had said she would grant his wishes forever. In a bland and tasteless world, could a word like forever even exist? Interesting. What are you talking about forever for? I'm not telling you. Then don't tell me for the rest of your life. Leo helped her to a nearby hotel. She still felt nauseous, and to avoid making it worse, they couldn't take a car. But her house was 20 miles from the afterglow. If Leo carried her all the way back, they wouldn't get there until morning. Under the astonished gaze of the girl at the front desk, Leo checked them in. He tossed Isabella onto the bed and said softly, "You shouldn't shower when you're drunk. Just sleep it off like this. I want to shower. You can't even stand up straight. How are you going to shower?" "I want to shower." Isabella struggled to her feet, peeling off her clothes piece by piece until she was completely naked and stumbled into the bathroom. Of course, Leo had to follow. In her state, she'd probably slip and kill herself. "Can I shower with you?" Amidst the rising steam, Isabella's face was very close, the water droplets on her long lashes blurring her vision. "Who are you? Showering with me?" "It's me, Leo. Who else would I be?" "You're a dog. Why are you insulting me?" "Your heart's been eaten by a dog." Leo took a deep breath and quietly propped his phone up on the counter. He aimed the camera at the empty doorway of the bathroom and began to speak quietly. "You're drunk. There are some things I don't want to say because I know you tend to black out and won't remember tomorrow. But looking at you now, I know you're not going to just go to sleep quietly. If you can't remember, you can listen to this again tomorrow." Leo took another breath, looking at the naked woman perched on the edge of the tub, her legs slightly turned in, her blue eyes wide and lost. He forced himself to look away. "The truth is," he said, "I can't bring much help to your life. So it's hard for me to say things like I'll take responsibility for you, because a man should only make promises he can keep. The $3 million from the gala, I'll get it from Silas and give it back to you. It's not that I don't accept it. It's that it's unnecessary. You have to remember to live your life well." Leo's expression was complicated. The most rational decision he could make right now was to say goodbye. If he were a completely unscrupulous person, he could easily invent some excuse to continue this ambiguous relationship. As long as he was around, Isabella would always accept him. Or, to put it more bluntly, if he wanted to sleep with her, there would always be a place for him in her bed. But no matter how much people called him a villain or a natural-born monster, he was still a person, not an animal. Since he couldn't give her what she needed, what right did he have to stop her from starting a new life? "Isabella," he said, his voice firm, "no matter what, you have to remember to look forward." Leo stopped the recording and turned to leave the bathroom. But a hand grabbed him. A soft, wet body pressed against his back, soaking his shirt. This time, there was no déjà vu. A sliver of clarity returned to Isabella's eyes. She just looked at him, her voice a soft whisper. "Leo, you've never actually made a wish. I still owe you one. A wish." Leo tilted his head, thinking for a moment. He said, "You're not allowed to drink anymore." "What did you say?" "I said, you're not allowed to drink anymore." It was such a simple wish, but it made Isabella tremble from head to toe. "Did you get your memory back? Have I said this before?" Leo scratched his head, standing beside her. "Then let's make that the wish again, okay? Why do you always say that, Leo?" The feeling was no longer just déjà vu. It was impossible to tell if this was the past or the present. "Because the wind is strong outside," he said softly. "From now on, remember to go home early." Sebastian Cole's worst fear had come to pass. "Leo, Leo, my man. Leo, my God. Dad." Seb buzzed around Leo like a frantic bee, trying to get information. "Would you stop being so annoying?" Leo was busy directing the cleaning crew. New Year's Eve was tomorrow. The lounge was officially closing for the holiday. "You're in the mood to clean?" Seb looked at him, practically fuming. "Isabella's been blowing up my phone since this morning, telling me to call my family in Boston. She said if I don't go back, she's leaving without me. So go. How can you be so heartless?" Seb was practically bouncing with anxiety. "If she leaves, it's over between you two. It's already over between us. But you have to at least get her to go to your families for New Year's. Why does she have to go to my house? She hasn't been home in a long time. Isn't it good for her to go see her family? Because if Isabella goes back, she's getting married." "She's getting married?" Leo turned, his eyes wide with disbelief. "To who?" "Take a wild guess." Seb's eyes were practically shooting flames. "Now do you see why I've been sticking around Riverbend for so long? If you two don't get together, my life is officially over." "But why?" "No one's forcing her. Remember the last time Mr. Vance came to Riverbend? The time he busted you out of the engagement dinner. Do you have any idea what that man is worth? It's not easy to get someone of his stature to make a house call, let alone to crash someone else's engagement party. So Isabella made a deal with her dad. He helps her out, and in return, she gets married. You can't blame Mr. Vance. Ruining an engagement dinner is embarrassing, but he did it for his daughter's happiness. In fact, when he made marriage the condition, his real intention was to push you two to stop messing around and just get married already. Who would have thought you'd actually break up? Got it. Leo nodded. So that was it. Mr. Vance had been called in to do something embarrassing, so he set marriage as the condition, hoping to force Leo and Isabella's hand. But they broke up, and Isabella, being the type to always honor a deal, decided to just marry someone else to fulfill her promise. For her, marriage was just a transaction. As for why she chose Seb, you think she has any other options? Seb looked at Leo, his face a mask of utter despair. My wonderful life is gone forever. If it's her choice, then I have to respect it. Leo shrugged and turned to leave. The Shung family had an ancestral home on the outskirts of the city. No one lived there anymore. It was only used for maintaining the family shrine and housing a few elderly relatives. Today, the same conversation was echoing through the memorial hall. Willow, my dear, listen to your uncle. Let's call off the engagement. Vincent Shung was one step away from getting on his knees and begging his niece. No, but isn't calling it off what you wanted? Vincent insisted. I heard it all from your dad. You wanted to end the engagement so you could have a pure relationship with Leo. No. Willow shook her head like a rattle. Then tell your uncle why you're not willing. Vincent had gotten a call from Rick Miller telling him to break off the engagement. Normally, something like this wouldn't even require Willow's consent. It was an arranged marriage. A simple phone call between the parents would suffice. But Rick had specifically warned him to handle it gently and get Willow to agree to it herself. Otherwise, they'd have a problem with Leo. Vincent was at his wit's end when Willow's expression suddenly changed. Uncle, you want me to be the one to go to the Millers and call it off, right? Of course. I'll do it. But you have to take me with you. Done. Your uncle promises. Clem sat in a chair with dark circles under her eyes. She clearly hadn't slept well. The reason? Isabella had completely dismantled her psyche. She'd spent the whole night replaying the conversation in her head, and the next thing she knew, the sun was up. Are you okay, cousin? Julian asked. I'm fine. Clem gripped her water glass, trying to hide her exhaustion. Isabella may have broken her, but Isabella was also out of the picture. That was a victory. After the Shung family called off their engagement, Isabella was her biggest rival. Now that rival was gone. Smooth sailing from here. Cousin, the Shungs are here. Should we make ourselves scarce? Let's go take a look. Clem stood up. She had zero interest in Willow Shung. Just some little girl. She just wanted to see how they would coax the poor thing into breaking off her own engagement. How amusing. They were all just toys. And so, by the shore of the man-made lake, the current fiancé and the potential future fiancé met. Clem sized up Willow. She wasn't what Clem had imagined. She'd expected some bubbly, youthful girl. Why was she dressed all in black? Her hair was pulled back tightly, with only a few strands framing her face. It didn't soften her features. In fact, it made them look sharper, more severe. Clem had to admit, Willow's appearance was a surprise. She thought a woman as beautiful as Isabella was a rarity. She hadn't expected to meet another one, of a completely different type. Clem walked over and greeted her. Hello. If you're looking for Rick, you can come with me. And you are. I'm Julian's cousin from D.C. Oh, so you're a guest. Willow tilted her head, giving her a curious look. Clem looked back, a knowing glint in her eye. I come out to welcome a guest. And she calls me a guest? Was that intentional? I hear you're still in college, Willow. Yes, cousin, Willow replied as they strolled down the path. Clem smiled gracefully. You can just call me Clem. Let's not get formal. I think I'll stick to cousin like Leo does. Leo doesn't call me cousin, Clem said, a mischievous thought popping into her head. She decided to tease the girl. Perhaps he's saving a different title for me for later. Don't worry, cousin. He won't accept your marriage proposal. Clem's smile instantly vanished. She turned to look at the innocent-looking young woman, her eyes filled with surprise. You already know about all that? My uncle guessed as much, so I came to see for myself. And what can you change by seeing? As a child of your family, what power do you really have? At least I won't let you get what you want. Willow looked down, standing by the water's edge, tickling the surface with a blade of grass. I know that if Rick Miller wants to force my father's hand, he has many ways. If I'm just Willow Shung of the Shung family, then yes, there's nothing I can do. What? Are you going to change your name? Willow shook her head. To join a monastery is to sever all ties with the secular world. You're going to become a nun? Clem's shock was on par with watching Isabella drop $3 million on a whim. Why was every woman in this group more insane than the last? If it were just Isabella, Clem could understand. But Willow too? Is it really that serious? It's not as dramatic as you think. I've been going to the Celestial Master's Sanctuary since I was a child. I'm more familiar with it than most places. If it's hard for you to understand, think of it this way. For me, becoming a nun is like telling a fishing enthusiast to move into a cabin on a lake. But why? This way, my family has a legitimate reason to refuse Rick Miller. Whether they want to call off the engagement or not, they'll have to wait until I return to secular life. That's an insane thing to do, Clem said, shaking her head in disbelief. Why don't you just tell Leo? Because that would also play right into Rick's hands. He's hoping Leo gets bogged down by trivial matters and stays. If I tell him, Leo will definitely get involved, and then he'll never be able to get away. So I hope he can make his decision without any burdens. If he wants to travel the world, then he should go without a second thought. Willow had thought it all through before she came. She'd explained it to her parents. They'd been against it at first, of course. But then Willow told them the story of her and Leo. She told them she knew what her problem was compared to the other girls. She had never seen the broken version of Leo. They had met too late. From the first day she saw him at that family banquet, he was already shining. And who isn't drawn to the light? It wasn't until she heard the fragmented, painful stories from the other girls that she began to see him through a different lens. His past was like a mirage. It was a strange feeling, completely different from what the others had experienced. In Willow's eyes, in her mind, there was only the Leo standing before her now. So she sincerely hoped that he could always look forward and never have to look back. That was why she supported Skylar and wanted Leo to go on his trip. She had told her parents, no matter what, I want him to leave without any baggage. And I'm not making a huge sacrifice. I owe him this. Standing at the entrance to the banquet hall, Willow saw the fountain in a new light. This was where she had spoken her first words to Leo. Back then, he had said, "It's okay. Leave it to me." And in return, her entire family was given a new lease on life. Now, all this time later, Willow stood in the same spot and whispered, "It's okay. Leave it to me." She wasn't going to tell Leo any of this. It would be as if it never happened. His fiancée would still be Willow Shung, which meant he wouldn't have to deal with any of it. Willow knew she was lacking so much compared to the others. She was envious of them. They all had such dramatic, colorful stories. She didn't. She wished she could have met the broken Leo, just to walk up to him and give him a hug. "Willow, you've really surprised me. You've surprised me a bit, too." Willow looked up at her, patting her chest and taking a small breath. She muttered under her breath, so quietly it was almost inaudible. "I thought you'd be another lightning storm. There are only two of us here. I can hear you, you know." "Bye, Cousin Clem." Willow turned to leave, spotting a familiar figure in the distance. Leo saw Willow from far away. The height and figure were right, but the all-black outfit was. "Wait, all black." Alarm bells screamed in Leo's head. He sprinted over to her. "Who pissed you off this time?" "Nothing's wrong." Willow, who had been so sharp-tongued just a moment ago, immediately deflated. Even her movements became hesitant. "Then why the dark side cosplay?" Leo stroked his chin, circling her. "I'm not." "Got it." Clem finished with Isabella and came for you, right? Leo narrowed his eyes at Clem. He'd been too busy to deal with her these past few days, but having her constantly buzzing around was getting really annoying. "You're not even going back to D.C. for New Year's." "I'm celebrating with the Millers." "Ungrateful brat. Your parents raise you all your life, and on New Year's, you'd rather be here chasing boys than go home to see them." "Being able to chase you is the greatest gift I could give my parents," Clem said with a dazzling smile. Leo's reply was blunt. "You want to chase me? Fine. I agree. From now on, you stick by my side. Where I go, you go. Are you trying to restrict my freedom? Don't accept? Then get lost." "I accept." Clem didn't forget to add a warning. "But I'd advise you not to try any of your tricks with women on me." "What are you, a man? I don't fall for that stuff." "That's what she said." Leo pointed at Willow. Willow nodded emphatically. "All right, whatever. We'll deal with it after the holiday. You're all just giving me a headache." Leo rubbed his tired face. He'd just come from a family meeting where he'd slept through the entire thing. "Willow, tomorrow morning, I have to go to the Miller Ancestral Hall for the memorial. You're coming with me." "Okay, what about me?" Clem pointed to herself. "Am I coming with you? I'll give you an address. Go to my parents' house by yourself. It's the holidays. Don't show up empty-handed. Bring some gifts." Willow looked up at him when she heard that. She was about to say that sending Clem by herself might be a bad idea, but then she caught the wicked glint in Leo's eyes. He leaned in and whispered in her ear, "What do you do when you run into a bad woman? You unleash an even worse one." New Year's Eve, a time to bid farewell to the old and welcome the new. No matter how much the festive spirit had faded over the years, there was still something different about this day, especially for a lively family. Atmosphere, after all, is created by people. Diane Miller was up at the crack of dawn, prepping ingredients. There would be more people at home this year. She'd asked her son how many to expect, and he'd said he honestly couldn't be sure. At least 2, but the maximum was unlimited. So, Diane spent the morning complaining to herself as she washed vegetables. Oh dear, look at my head. I forgot to call Summer. Normally, you spend New Year's with your own family. But Summer Lynn had a precedent for celebrating with the Millers. Her mother had once gone home with a boyfriend for the holidays, and ever since then, Diane made sure to invite her over for dinner. Summer, honey, are you up yet? Auntie, I'm not going to come over. I'm staying home with my mom. All right then. Diane didn't press, but that didn't mean she wasn't suspicious. Something was very off with Summer lately. She put down the phone and continued her prep work. Cooking for 6 or 7 people was no easy task, especially when she was used to cooking for 3. That silly boy collects a whole flock of girlfriends, and not a single one of them is thoughtful enough to help out around the house, Diane grumbled. Realistically speaking, she had several potential daughters-in-law, and not one of them had the sense to offer a hand. The moment the words left her mouth, there was a knock on the door. She opened it to find a woman with an extraordinary air about her, though her face was rather plain. Clem, Auntie, I hope I'm not disturbing you. Not at all, not at all. Come in. Diane bustled to get a pair of slippers. Oh my, you shouldn't have. You came all this way. You didn't need to bring so many things. Clem set a pile of gift boxes on the floor, a warm smile on her face. They're just some health supplements. Happy New Year, Annie. May you stay forever young. Thank you. Diane beamed, unable to hide her delight. You just sit on the sofa for a bit. I have to get back to the kitchen. Auntie, let me help you. No. You young people don't know how to do any of this. After the pleasantries, Clem sat on the sofa and surveyed the room. She had come early for a reason, to secure a favorable position. She had a lot of competition today. Just as she was about to get up, another knock came at the door. Auntie, I'll get it. Clem stood and walked to the door, curious to see who had arrived next. The door opened. A woman with a V-shaped face and enchanting eyes stood on the doorstep. Hello, Clem said. Hello. Clem's eyes instinctively flickered downward for a moment. Are you Evelyn or Peyton? Her internal radar failed. She couldn't tell from looks alone. Peyton. Oh, cousin-in-law. Clem's expression was apologetic, but her choice of words was deliberately pointed. There was no need to call her that. Peyton looked at the strange woman, her expression unreadable. She had clearly been briefed, but hearing the title cousin-in-law still made her lower her head with a bitter smile. Do you have to start trouble on New Year's Eve? My apologies, it was a slip of the tongue. It's fine. Peyton didn't dwell on it. Instead, she waved at Diane, who had come out of the kitchen holding a bundle of celery. Auntie, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too. Come in, sit down. You're so busy, Auntie. How could I possibly sit down? Peyton walked straight past the living room and into the kitchen, taking the celery leaves from Diane's hands. Diane, of course, protested. You young people don't know how to do this. Go sit on the sofa and chat. I'll do what I can. With so many mouths to feed, how long would it take you to do it all by yourself? Oh, this girl is so sweet. Don't worry. Auntie, I won't get in your way. Just tell me what to do. Well, could you help me wash these vegetables? You got it. Clem was left standing there, completely ignored. Peyton hadn't fought back, at least not aggressively. But Clem suddenly realized this was Leo's home. Not a grand mansion or a high-end club. It was a place filled with the warmth of everyday life. She wanted to recover, to follow them into the kitchen, but Peyton stopped her cold with a single sentence. Auntie, am I doing this right? I never would have guessed a young person like you would know how to do this. A poor kid learns to be independent early, Peyton said with a smile. I'm not some rich young lady who's been coddled. It takes more than just a lot of people to make a house feel lively. Someone has to talk. Clem was about to get a masterclass in conversation. Peyton and Diane weren't like a daughter-in-law and a mother-in-law at all. They were more like a pair of old friends gossiping at the community center. Leo just hates celery dumplings. And here I'm telling him celery is good for him. The celery filling can be a bit overwhelming, Clem interjected, deciding to join the conversation. I'm not a big fan of it either. She thought she was building a rapport with Diane, feeling pleased with herself. But then she looked up and met Peyton's eyes. They were filled with mockery. I love celery filling, Peyton murmured, shaking the water from her hands as she went to the living room to find a paper towel. Where I'm from, we say celery brings good fortune. Diligence, you know. I like it too, Diane chimed in. See? That boy just doesn't listen. Peyton hummed in agreement, and while wiping her hands, she gave Clem a little tutorial. Didn't they teach you how to handle in-law relationships in your big fancy family? Is that something you need to be taught? You do. Peyton nodded firmly, glancing toward the kitchen. Mothers and daughters-in-law are natural enemies. There's only one way to build a stable relationship. And what's that? Lessons cost money. You're unbelievable. Clem could see a familiar shadow in Peyton. That infuriating tone was exactly like Leo's. Like father, like son, or in this case, like boyfriend, like girlfriend. I'm just afraid you'll make a pathetic exit before everyone even arrives. Where's the fun in that? How much for the lesson? Call me big sister. Excuse me? Clem looked up at her. She really didn't have much experience with in-law dynamics. If she couldn't get close to Diane now, while it was quiet, she'd have no chance once the whole crowd arrived. Calling her sister didn't seem like a huge loss. Sister, was that a mosquito? Sister, there we go. Remember that title. Peyton smiled, taking Clem's arm warmly. No matter what happens later, remember to call me sister. It's a good deal for you, because your big sister can help you. The sudden warmth was disorienting, but Clem was smart. She quickly understood the woman's strategy. Peyton was playing the long game. Unlike Isabella's dismissiveness or Willow's outright hostility, Peyton's attitude was almost inclusive. She didn't care what happened to Clem. If you can't make the cut, that's expected. If you do make it, I accept it. But you have to call me sister. Because of the extreme attitudes of the others, Clem came to a ridiculous conclusion. She's on my team. Sister, please teach me. Of course, of course. Peyton beamed, satisfied. She whispered, what you did just now is wrong. When a mother is complaining about her son, you can't take the son's side. You have to stand firmly with the mother. It's natural for a mother to scold her son. He won't get mad over a little complaint. If you take his side, you're the only one who gets hurt. Clem nodded, understanding. She followed Peyton back toward the kitchen. But as she walked, a serious problem dawned on her. What was with Peyton's main wife, Aura? I'm supposed to be the main one here. Clem belatedly realized that some crucial ground had already been lost. No, I have to get it back. If the marriage alliance went through, she would have to accept Peyton and Evelyn. That meant she might have to deal with Peyton for the rest of her life. So how do you turn the tables from a position of weakness? You play your trump card. Peyton's identity. Clem casually walked into the kitchen, squatting between Peyton and Diane, pretending to wash vegetables. She said softly, Sister Peyton, how's Ethan doing in there? Clem didn't plan to drop the whole bomb at once. After she spoke, she watched Peyton's face for a reaction. If Peyton looked panicked, if she shot her a pleading glance, she would immediately back off. But Peyton didn't move a muscle. Instead, she straightened her red dress and took the initiative. I hear Ethan's doing all right. Seeing her so unflappable, Clem decided to push further. You think I don't have the guts? You'll be begging me soon enough. Has Ethan sent any word out about the engagement? No, he's probably forgotten all about me. Diane, standing nearby, heard the conversation and felt something was off. At first, she thought they were talking about a mutual friend. Maybe she'd misheard the name, but then they mentioned prison and an engagement. Girls, she said, the Ethan you're talking about, is that Leo's cousin? Clem didn't answer. She turned to look at Peyton, waiting for her to beg. If Peyton begged, she would immediately say Ethan was just a friend from out of town. Diane didn't know her anyway. But to her astonishment, Peyton nodded, admitting it first. Diane wiped her hands and stood up, confused. Then what was that about an engagement? Do you two also know Ethan's fiancée? Clem turned to Peyton again. She was still waiting. If she begged now, Clem would say Ethan's fiancée had gone back to her hometown. Diane didn't know her anyway. But Peyton didn't even look at Clem. She simply nodded. Auntie, she said calmly, I am Ethan's fiancée. Oh my, why didn't you say so sooner, dear? Diane thought her nephew's fiancée was visiting. She had assumed they were all her son's little girlfriends. Wait a minute, dear. If that's the case, on New Year's Eve, you're here. Then you and Leo are. A terrible thought suddenly sprouted in Diane's mind. She stared straight into Peyton's eyes, trying to confirm the truth. In that moment, even Clem had to admire Peyton's acting. This woman, with a face thick enough to withstand anything, actually managed to produce a hint of a blush. She turned her head away shyly. She didn't give an answer, but the answer seemed obvious. At least in the eyes of an experienced woman like Diane, a woman's shyness could mean 1,000 things. Faced with this incredible truth, Diane froze on the spot. Suddenly, she had a feeling this was going to be a very, very difficult new year.